Hello, good evening, Wakefield. I am calling this meeting of April 24th, 2023 to order, and I ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Looking around the table, all my counselors, fellow counselors are here today, so perfect attendance. And moving on to item 4, public engagement. Town Administrator Steve Mayo, can I pass on the list of people who
Sure.
signed up to you?
At this point, we have 7 people that have signed up for public participation, one of which did not wish to speak and sent in the form only, which I think you received in the packet, and that's appropriate on the one of the items on the agenda, the farmers market. First person, so I'm going to go in order of people of how they signed up, and under our policy, it's 15 minutes for total for public participation. I divide that by 6, and my herd school math tells me that's 2.5 minutes a person. So Sherry Carlson was first to sign up. And that was people that sent it in online early, and then people that signed up here. Sherry will correct me if I miss anybody, I'm sure.
Hi, Sherry Carlson, 21 Wharton Park. So I have a couple questions regarding the current site chosen to construct the new Northeast Metro Tech school facility. The first one is that many believe that the January 22 ballot question was misleading, particularly in light of the recent revelation that the open meeting law may have been violated numerous times, leaving voters in the dark over the chosen location. The ballot question did not contain any language indicating the new site would be on a hilltop and would require mass tree clearing and blasting. Now that residents are becoming aware, over 6,500 people have signed a change.org petition to build on a different site, one that is less expensive, less environmentally destructive, and more accessible to everyone. For example, Site C2, which is an existing open field next to the Voke. How can you help rectify this injustice? Perhaps the vote should be voided and a revote taken now that the taxpayers know the full story. That's my first question. My second question is, there appears to be a lack of environmental studies to justify the hilltop site choice. This choice will require clear cutting and sacrificing 13.5 acres of irreplaceable core forest habitat and over 2,000 trees, wetlands, and vernal pools. Have environmental studies been done, and are those studies available to the public? Will there be a full MEPA review with an environmental impact report that includes investigation of loss of habitat for rare and endangered species, such as Hentz's red-bellied tiger beetle and the eastern whippoorwill that currently live in this forest? If not, why not? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Elizabeth Parsons, who signed up. She will not be speaking, or did not request to speak. Cindy Schatz.
Good evening, I'm Cindy Schatz. Welcome. Welcome to those who are online with us, and good evening to you, town councilors, town moderator, town administrator. I know who the moderator is, because I served as 25 years as a library trustee, and his wife served along with me for a number of those years. I'm here to talk on behalf of the Friends of the BB Library, specifically the book sale division. With me next to here is Karen King. She's on the book sale team. Behind me is Deb Trachtenberg, who's on the Friends of the Library's board as a director. Next to her is Nancy Tollison, who's been with the book sale for 25, 30 years. Nobody keeps track anymore. Online with us is Greta Garnis, who is my co-chair of the book sale, and the rest of the members of my book sale team, Arthur Meinert. And that took up a good chunk of my time. The Friends of the Library has been around since 1975. The book sale has been around for not quite that long. You probably attended the book sale when we were at the First Baptist Church. We all miss the First Baptist Church. We're so glad it's rising from the ashes. We spent 1 year at the former American Mutual building, and now we've been in the Herd since the very end of 2019. The Herd School is not always going to be available to us, and I did write a letter to all the counselors and to Steve Mayo about that. We know that we have a limited run there, and we have been looking for a new space for the past several months. We have a relocation committee within the Friends of the Library for a space. At this point, we run across no good prospects. The biggest hurdle for us is money, because if we were to pay market rate for a storage facility, and we know that at one of the facilities in town where we could get a fairly good sized place, it's $800 plus a month. At $9,600 a year, that almost wipes out what we make with the book sale. We make somewhere between $10,000 and $12,000 between the book sale, giving away books and getting donations at the Festival by the Lake and at the farmers markets in town. So we give the Friends of the Library to the library anywhere from $25,000 to $40,000 during the course of the year. So it doesn't all come from the book sale, but a good chunk does. Money also comes from donations and memberships that the Friends members give to the Friends organization. This year we've already given a good chunk of change, and we had a request from Catherine, the library director, for $45,000 for a special project that she wanted to do. We have not approved that, but we have received that request. So we are very significant, very important to the library. If we're spending our money on renting space and not making money from the book sale, we might as well disband the book sale. But the book sale has a great importance to this town beyond just giving money back to the Friends, which goes on to the library. It is something that people in town look forward to. It brings people together. It's one of the biggest community events in town. So that's something that we would really like to keep going. It brings people into town from outside of town as well. A lot of our members are not Wakefield citizens. Most of them are, but many are not. And then people come in from outside town because of what we do in this town, just like outsiders use the library. It's not just Wakefield residents using the library. I'm pretty sure I'm out of time, right? So we're looking for any suggestions, any help that you or anyone who's viewing online has for an idea of where the book sale could move to for its storage needs during the course of the year.
Actually, Madam Chair, I know it's not a back and forth.
It's not a back and forth.
Just a quick question, if I could just clarify.
Sure.
How many square feet are you looking for? Because that's one thing that wasn't clear.
Right now, we have wonderful 40 by 50 square feet there we've got about 2,000 square feet. We would like to have about 800 as a minimum.
Okay.
Which would be a very large 2-car garage.
Okay.
But it would need to have heat. We need to have humidity control. We've put our own humidifier into the Herd. There's no AC in the summer. That's how we've managed the humidity. And the heat we've had has been minimal, but you have to have something.
That's super helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next one I have on the list is Bronwyn Della Volpe. Is she online, Sherry?
Yes, she is.
Good evening, Bronwyn Della Volpe, 8 Cyrus Street. I'm approaching you tonight because the Northeast Metro Tech Vocational School budget is on the agenda. I voted for the VOC funding and fully support vocational training, and I do want to see the new vocational school built. But I want it on the record that, not that it's going to mean a hill of beans, but I do not approve of my tax dollars being spent on the destruction of the forest to make way for the hilltop location of the new vocational school. Now, most of you know me as a fairly involved and informed resident. But when I voted to fund the new vocational school, I did not know the location of the school and the enormous problems inherent in that hilltop site. And you'll recall that the Northeast Metro Tech School Building Committee's PowerPoint presentation at the Wakefield Town Meeting was not working. So voters had no visuals to help guide them in making an informed vote. But even if the visuals had been available to the town meeting voters, they would not have helped, because virtually all of the renderings are so devoid of detail that they do not offer an accurate depiction of the building location, the elevation changes between the upper and the lower campuses, the 35-foot rock cliff that will run on one side of the school, or the 1,100-foot-long ramp and stair units that we must navigate from the lower parking lots all the way up to the school. Now, I believe that the Northeast Metro Tech School Building Committee realized that if residents knew about these issues, they would not vote to fund the new school. So I'm here to object to the use of my tax dollars for a building location that demands $40 million for site preparation alone. And I'd much prefer that that money be spent on the students, the new facility, and the staff of our new vocational school. And among the many other avoidable problems this building site poses, unnecessary spending should not be one of them. So let's save money. We can keep the forest and build our new school on one of the alternate sites available to the building committee.
Thank you, Bronwyn. Next, Steve.
Next is Bob Brooks. He's in studio.
Hi, my name is Bob Brooks, 7 June Circle, and a butter to the Northeast Metro Tech project. If I need to speak up louder, I apologize for my voice with the raspiness. It's a little bit of laryngitis, but I'll try to be as loud as I can and fast as I can. On Saturday, April 22nd, it was considered Earth Day, but that was for Wakefield, but it was more than just Earth Day. It was also Save the Forest Day. Marchers from Wakefield and surrounding communities came together in opposition to the unnecessary destruction of Wakefield's only remaining forested core habitat. The new vocational school should be built on already developed area, which is located on vocational school land. At the November 28th, 2022 Town Council meeting, which I attended and spoke, Superintendent DeBarry also came before you to offer his updated version of the school project. This Town Council gave him supportive, glowing, positive remarks. I am here tonight to tell you that his statements about the transparency of the school project were inaccurate. Contrary to what Mr. DeBarry claims, the NEMT School Building Committee meeting minutes prove the lack of transparency that has been a staple of this project from the beginning. The release of the pre-feasibility study on February 1st, 2016 to the very first school building committee meeting on November 29th, 2018, and continued to December 10th, 2020, the minutes reflect zero public participation. I repeat, zero public participation. Why is that? It is because the public is not aware of any of the meetings leading up to the selection of the building site. A primary reason why the public wasn't aware was because, according to the open meeting law complaint filed against the building committee, no meeting notices were posted. It was only after the site was selected was a plan enacted by the building committee to begin a public outreach program. That is why there is such public outroar. The public was truly unaware. The butters were unaware. The residents of Wakefield were unaware. And I would assume some members of this town council were also unaware of the site selection process. However, our own Northeast School Building Committee Wakefield representatives, Brittany Carcilla and Stephen Mayo, were fully aware of the site and had been selected then. I'm almost closing. The building the new vocational school on Wakefield's only remaining forest core habitat is a bad decision. And bad decisions produce bad results. I commend many of our town board and committee members who have taken the time to research this project and its many pitfalls, and would respectfully suggest that the Wakefield Town Council members do the same. Please do not ignore this opportunity to be involved and make a difference. Thank you. And also, these are the minutes from the School Building Committee. The information I just repeated to you was actually from these documents.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
Thank you very much for allowing me the extra time.
Thank you. Jennifer Fanning, who is in studio, I believe.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Fanning. I'm at Pheasantwood Drive in Wakefield. My comment relates to the vocational school. 2 weeks ago, I spoke at the town council meeting about the open meeting law complaint that I submitted against the building committee that selected the Forested Hilltop as their preferred location for the new vocational school. And if my complaint is validated, which I expect it will be, it will account for why almost no one in Wakefield knew where the new vocational school would be built. Wakefield voters went to the polls in January 2022 and were asked to approve $317 million in spending on the most expensive new building option the committee considered. Is the town council concerned that Wakefield residents were asked to vote on funding for the project after being given so little information about the school? Thank you.
Sherry, do you have anybody else?
Yeah, with Steve.
I have one. I think
Megan
Megan
McDonough.
McDonough. She in studio?
Mhm.
Yes. It's the last one, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'm actually 185 Main Street, Melrose. And again, my name is Megan McDonough. I'm just going to try to read off my phone here. Town Council and Administrator Steve Mayo. I am a disabled tradesperson. I live in Melrose. I generally volunteer in the community on issues of representation and inclusion. I had a history with the vocational school land as a young person playing sports, and in my working life, I was a union tradesperson. I understand the value of vocational education, especially now more than ever. I'm here to speak on a number of different things briefly. One is disability concerns, archaeological concerns, financial concerns, and the sheer amount of concern that has poured out of so many communities on the issue of the siting of the new school. Disability advocates in the NEMT district towns and a number of commissions on disabilities have come forth with concerns largely about safe travel between the upper and lower campus, and also about new road safety. When the commissions first began engaging in the issue, the ramp was 735 feet long, and after bringing up concerns, including the creation of a remote, vulnerable area open to all weather, this ramp, it didn't get any shorter, it got longer, possibly up to 1,100 feet longer, or possibly up to 1,100 feet. An athletic support outbuilding that has been removed that would have had an elevator that went from the lower parking lot up 2 stories to the start of the ramp. Just because a design meets ADA requirements does not mean it is an inclusive design. ADA is actually the minimum, and that's the law. And there is no ADA code for ramp length. If disabled people feel a space has too much of a level of difficulty to use, is that an exclusion? Is it okay for Wakefield to have a new public building that makes disabled people feel excluded by its design? In addition, the remoteness of the ramp has many concerned. It could build another element of risk into the build. Some town parents of kids who aren't mobility challenged believe their kids might actually find ways to use the ramp as a skate park, a luge, or sled ramp, or otherwise a place of great mischief as the funnest, most dangerous new thing in town. I'm also concerned the area is known for being highly archaeologically sensitive and has had no review that the public has learned of related to 100 Hemlock Road forest area. Going into a potential build without a Mass Historical Commission review, I would hope the town would, in any way they could, help ensure the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act is honored and upheld if anything is found there, and that any historical items are given respectable and lawful treatment by urging Mass Historical for a review. I hope Town Council is aware that the student population of NEMT will increase and that their operating budget will also increase significantly, and as well ask NEMT how Chapter 70 will be incorporated in that, and ask for a review if you have not already. Many people in 12 towns are concerned about the overages linked to the siting on the water-filled ledge and the massive land clearing operation, stormwater cost to abutters who already experienced flooding. And finally, I urge the Town Council and Town Administrator to engage with MESBA and NEMT School Building Committee and School Committee on the possibilities of greater equity and inclusion in the new NEMT. Very many people think the answers to these concerns center on the siting of a different location on the property. MSBA has recently said themselves that they believe the answers lie now with the town. So that's with you and we've also engaged at state level to representatives, and they've asked, what are the counselors doing? We just asked you to engage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Anyone else, Steve?
That's all that I have.
Oh.
That signed up.
I was the first one to sign up. I met
When did-
Brian at 6:30.
Oh,
We signed up with the executive something.
okay. It's up to you. They didn't come
Yeah,
to me.
you should have stuffed it with in here, but come on up. 2.5 minutes.
No, my nap is off.
Please state your name and your address.
Yes, hello. Constantina Sideris, Melvin Street. I'm here today to express my deep frustration in regards to the new Vogue School project. As a rather new Wakefield resident, we have been living here for less than a year. I am disturbed by these projects and of the elected officials' utter disregard of the people's voices regarding the lack of safety of the building, the excessive traffic that will accumulate on Farm and Hemlock, that will directly impact myself and everyone else who uses this road, and lastly, the environmental impact that we will all have to endure for many years, and by the way, all future generations. And for what? We now have over 6,500 votes to stop this project. How do you so blatantly disregard us taxpayers and overlook our growing frustration? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Paul Rybicki on Parker Road, Wakefield resident for 40 years. I'm here to talk about my alarm about the vote, and the two things I want to focus on is the fact that the height of the difference between the campus up school and down below is going to be 79.5 feet. That's a lot of vertical to go from the parking steps to the first floor grade level. 1,100-foot ramp is inherently unsafe. It's an exterior north-facing ramp. Having no sidewalk up the campus here. We have a sidewalk going the other way to Farm Street, but it wasn't in the plan until people asked the public, and the public shouldn't have to ask. The school should be designed with safety in mind. I am dumbfounded that we're here talking about a hilltop school that has no sidewalk because it's too steep. The grade that I want to close on is that the ramp and the ADA is totally compliant. It meets everything, but it doesn't meet the common sense. Federally, it says you can't have a ramp more than 8.33%. This ramp is 8.3%. So the 3/100's off. If you look at, I want to close reading the recommendation for the ADA, section 420 on ramp steepness. We recommend, this is not a requirement, they recommend a slope below 8.3 for better usability at a wider range of users. A slope maximum of 7.5 will inherently take care of exterior ramps and accommodate irregularities due to exterior construction. This is an exterior ramp. It should be 7.5%, which makes it over 1,100 feet. It'll be a 1,400-foot ramp. When I asked why there's no sidewalk going up the driveway, but they're going to have a guardrail and a drainage swale on the two sides, the Traffic Safety Advisory Board said they're recommending a sign saying no pedestrians. That's woefully inadequate. Kids will mostly read the sign. Kids are not all going to read the sign. Having a guardrail on one side, drainage swale on the other, and lots of parking that funnels right to that 89-foot, because people don't want to walk down 11 feet to, below to get that ramp. So thank you for your listening to me. I appreciate it.
Paul, what's your address?
I'm at 152 Park.
Thank you.
Anyone else that we missed? Okay, thank you. Moving on, item 5, fiscal year 2024 budget. Is Kevin joining us?
No, I'm going to start off, but Sherry will bring the people on from the VOC, for the VOC budget.
Yes.
This budget includes all vocational schools in our district. I will not talk over the Northeastern Tech. They will when they come on. But it's important to remember that we have a number of vocational schools in our districts where Wakefield children go to. One is Minuteman Regional, and over the years, and this is in Lexington, over the years we have had a number of students go there. As you will know, this year we are accounting for 0. We know of none. There is one Wakefield student there that is a senior graduating, so we don't know of anybody going next year. And we don't know until October anyway, until we get the numbers, so this happens every year. The other school that has really, has a number of students going to is the Essex North Shore Regional School. That has 10 students attending this year, and we were told by their staff that you really must have hit the lottery, because really, if you're not in the district, and we're really not in that district around there, you're lucky if you get, one school a year. We have 10 students in there. We're budgeting for 10 for fiscal year '24. We only budgeted for 7 in fiscal year '23, and 10 students attended. So actually, this year, we will be going to the Finance Committee for a reserve fund transfer, which happens all the time because we don't know until after we set our budgets, way after we set our budgets. The transportation costs are included there as well, and for Essex North, that's $13,885. North Shore Regional being $53,243 for the students. All in, the budget request for the vocational schools is $2,251,945, which is $88,630 more than last year. Had we had these numbers in October, we would basically be level funding this budget, because we're going to ask for $85,000 for a reserve fund. So that's who goes to the schools. Vocational school packages in your budget, and I don't see them on yet. Are they, Sherry, you pulling them on, or are they?
Yeah, they're on now.
Okay,
yeah.
they're on now, great.
They
So
just-
I will
they
turn
just
it over
gotta
to them,
turn the
Madam
cameras
Chair.
on.
So they can present their
Great,
budget.
thank you.
Hi, Dave. Hi, Jay. Carla. Brittany, can you hear us?
Hi, yes, I can. How are you?
Okay, great. Thank you.
Brittany, if you want to get rolling.
Hi, sure. I'd like to say thank you, everyone, thank the town council for inviting us tonight. Tonight, we are pleased to present to you the fiscal year 2024 budget. It was approved by the Northeast School Committee on April 13th. For your consideration, I will now turn it over to our Director of Finance, Jay Pacone, to present the highlights. Thank you.
Dave, did you want to start? With a
Yeah.
little introduction? All right.
Yeah, I will. I need to give Brittany a script next. Yeah, so last time I was here, I gave the board my word that I would keep looking for ways to find money to lessen the burden on all of our cities and towns, obviously including Wakefield. So happy to report before we start this budget presentation that we do have 2 new prospects that we hope will support the funding of our new project and lessen the burden on Wakefield. So first of all, Representative Lipper Garabedian and Representative Mike Day have co-sponsored an amendment to retroactively increase the square foot cap for schools that were in the MSBA pipeline prior to its increase in December. So if you recall, Wakefield's project got in just in time and was able to go in at a higher cap for their square footage, so much higher than what Northeast was given from MSBA. So this legislation would retroactively allow Northeast to be bumped up to the new square footage allowance, which would be a significant amount of money that Northeast would have towards reducing that burden to the cities and towns. Secondly, I've been in contact with Senator Markey's office, and they directed me to a grant that is looking to fund new walkways, bike pathways, and rotaries that would aid Wakefield in its plans to potentially add these projects in areas around your new project as well as around the Northeast project. Since the grants have to be submitted by the municipality, Northeast cannot submit the grant, but I have reached out today, in fact, to Lieutenant Anderson and Mr. Mayo and some of the members on this board, Chairman Butt and Chairman Dombrowski, and we hope to support that effort as well in any way possible. So these will be significant savings to the taxpayers of Wakefield. And I really think we have a very strong chance of both of these
going through. So I just wanted to get that going before we turned it back over to Mr. Bacone, and I'll stay on, obviously, with Dr. Scazzarella to answer more questions as they arise. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you very much for having us tonight. I'm going to go through the PowerPoint presentation that I emailed earlier today. I think everybody has access to that, but I'll share my screen. It's going to be the exact same presentation that we'll work through. So, oh, sorry, am I able to share my screen?
Yeah, you should be able to, Jay.
Okay. It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
WCAT, can you give him some credentials so we can screen share?
Oh, here we go. I got it now.
Yeah, you should be good now.
All right, thank you. All right, everybody can see that?
Yeah, we can see it.
You can see it, okay, great. Thank you very much. All right, thank you very much. This is a presentation of the FY24 budget for Northeast Metro Tech. And it's not. Oh, there we go. I gotta go back. Technical difficulties. All right. So first and foremost, all of our budgets that we enter into on an annual basis, they always have a twofold goal in mind. We always want to minimize the impact to our member communities. Now, we understand our communities under significant financial constraints. They're under the restrictions of Prop 2.5 on how much money they can raise via taxation. We also understand that member communities have different residential and commercial tax bases. A lot of our member communities have a high residential tax base, which makes that problematic for them to raise enough money via taxation on an annual basis as well. And we also, furthermore, we also understand that there are other departments within each city and town of our member communities that needs to be funded fully and adequately on an annual basis. And we know that a major assessment increase would affect the ability to be able to fund the police and fire departments, the regular public schools. So we want to eliminate that burden almost completely for that member community. And secondly, we aim to provide an adequate level of funding to support student learning and foster educational excellence, because that's what we're here to do. We've been here for 50 years, offering an excellent level of vocational education to the members of our 12 member communities, including Wakefield. We want to be considered Wakefield's other school. We really think that educational excellence should flow to our school, except in a vocational pathway, but we want to offer that same level of excellence that you guys offer at your schools. Regionalization exists by definition to offer services at a reduced cost to its member communities. Our initial budget goal is always to keep our assessment at or below 3%, which is $523,937 or less. I'm happy to report that our actual operational assessment increase for FY24, including debt service, is $485,620. So we've had an unwavering commitment since as long as I've been here and beyond, in order to keep our assessments low. And that 3% threshold is always something we aim to achieve. And you'll notice here, since from FY19 to FY24, we've been successful in doing so. Other than FY23, but that's a bit of an outlier since that's the first debt service payment that came in, $1,862,200 had to be assessed to each member community. I'm sorry, a total of $1,862,200 was assessed to the member communities, and so that inflated that amount. So here's a numerical representation of the same graphical data. If you take out the outlier of FY23, although I will point out our operational assessment increase in that year was 0.88 without the debt service payment. But that equates to an average assessment increase over these years of 2.3%. So we're able to keep our assessments low. I know somebody talked about Chapter 70. Chapter 70 is always used to reduce member assessments and reduce the operating assessment costs. In FY22 to FY23 to FY24, we've received an increase year after year of Chapter 70. We also received $1.2 million in transportation reimbursement on an annual basis that we also use to offset the member assessment. So why that Chapter 70 amount of the 14 million is $1.3 million higher than our budgeted in FY23. We're going to use all of that to reduce the member assessment. We also intend to receive a projected $1.2 million in transportation revenue in FY23. So we have a transportation reimbursement fund that we set up. We bank our receipts in the current year in FY23. So that way in FY24, if there's any 9C cuts or any cuts to projected transportation reimbursement, we already know what our offset's going to be. So that's been a great financial vehicle for us, and we'll continue to use it. Additionally, we intend to use $700,000 from our excess and deficiency funds, our E&D, to further reduce the assessment costs. $400,000 of that E&D is going to go to almost eliminate the transportation costs to the member communities, and $300,000 will be used to offset further operating costs. In total, we plan to use $1.9 million of our other funds to reduce member assessment. So FY24, we have the following fiscal challenges. We need funding for regular contractual and salary obligations, including steps and lanes. Funding for new educators/administrators based on student needs and increased enrollments, stemming from the school building project and increased demands. Funding for OPEB. We have other post-employment benefits. Our estimated liability is around $60 million. It's very important to keep funding this liability. Keeps our bond rating strong. In the review from S&P 500, they determined that liability, as long as we continue funding it, will not affect our bond rating, so we're going to continue to do so. Funding for increases in health insurance costs due to a projected 5% increase in GIC premiums. And then we need funding for technology to support student learning. I got to get rid of this. Okay. So all told, our total operational assessment for FY24 is $33,923,146. That's a 1.22% increase over the FY23 operating budget of $33,513,000. So we'll further reduce that operating expense by applying our revenue that we use to offset the total operating costs. And the total Northeast Metro Tech requested assessment comes in at $17,951,072. And that is a 2.78% increase over the FY23 total operating assessment. So here's our total assessment summary, which includes the debt service. You'll be most interested in Wakefield's number, which is $2,038,570. That's based on a decrease of 5 students to 101 students total. Your assessment typically based on the minimum contribution increase based on income and property wealth of the Wakefield citizens. They determined that your minimum contribution should be a little bit higher than it was in the past. I think it was around exactly 21,000, and that is attributed to your that attributes to your total assessment increase for the year. And the final slide is just the breakout of operating assessment, debt service, and total assessment. So that's the end of this slideshow. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Counselor Chines.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Brittany and Dave and Jay for the presentation. I just had a couple of questions and sort of comments on the budget that I wanted to walk through. The first was I did note in the packet that we got that part of the operating budget for this year includes the addition of an assistant superintendent position. Could you speak a little bit to that and sort of the intent behind that position? It does seem, looking at it on its face, when you're talking about a district with one school, it feels a little bit excessive, but, just want to make sure that we understand, what that person would be doing, what the work is that isn't duplicating work that already exists elsewhere.
Good. So, first to start off, we are anticipating 1,600 students who are going to be at our school. So as you know, that is a significant district by that sense, whether it's one school or more. However, the assistant superintendent is more going to be a shift. As you know, an assistant superintendent can encompass assistant superintendent of curriculum, assistant superintendent of student support, assistant superintendent of operations. So it would have an administrative role separate than just being the assistant to the superintendent. It would really allow during the project to have another set of eyes on the district while we're dealing with the day-to-day operations of the building project. But they would act as one of the three administrators, depending on the resumes that we get coming in. So they would do specific administrative duties outside of the superintendent's office.
And I guess what is your vision of what those duties are?
So for example, if it was operations, it would be somebody who would oversee the facilities, would oversee the IT department, oversee the cafeteria. If it was curriculum, it would oversee all the different curriculum issues within the building. And if it was student services, it would oversee special education, guidance counselors, admissions. So it would be one of those three. And like I said, it would take, and it's very likely if it is an internal candidate, that the position that the person is leaving would not be filled. So it's more a shuffle of responsibilities to have somebody who could technically be in the assistant position.
So to the extent that it sounds like this potentially is an internal candidate, have you budgeted for a decrease in salary for another position, or?
Unfortunately, I can't guarantee it's going to be internal. We do have contracts that are expiring as well on July 1st, which is the same day that the new position would take effect. Mm-hmm. But there would be it would not be a complete increase. There would be some savings that hopefully would filter into the E&D and cut down future assessments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I ask it just, I certainly appreciate the need, for
right.
consideration on, I mean, I think, education is getting more complicated. We know that, and I know that there are future projections for more enrollment, although my understanding is those projections don't actually bear out until the building project is completed, which won't be in fiscal year 2024. I guess I just, as you're describing this, and I appreciate there may be additional information that went to the school committee, it does feel a little bit loose in terms of, I know what we as a council for positions that we control would ask for in terms of justification for a position. And so I would maybe just ask that there be some consideration of that, or some additional planning around that. It does, again, feel a little bit ill-defined right now for the price point that you're talking about in terms of salary.
Right. So I know I do ask to keep in mind that is not going to be the absolute salary. It's a negotiated position, and there would be significant savings from another administrative position that potentially was a 10-month position, and this would become a 12-month position. So the majority of our administrators, and we do have one of the lowest student to administrator ratio in the district. So, we've been behind the 8 ball for quite some time on the amount of administrators we have at the building.
Okay. Next question I just had, so you mentioned the 700,000 coming out of E&D funding. Can you give us a sense as to, what your current balance is in the E&D accounts and sort of what you see the trajectory of those balances over the next couple of years? I mean, obviously at some point, you can't rely on that to balance budgets each year. And so I'd just like to get a better understanding as to where you stand current state and, if you're pulling $700,000 out this year, how you expect that to either be replenished or what you expect those future balances to look like.
So over the course of, since I've been here for the past 7 years, E&D has always been maxed out. Actually, we had, it's always at the highest level. We had 200,000 that was beyond our 5% that allowable this year. So therefore, it had to be used as an offset in the next fiscal year, which is what we're doing here. And then, so in essence, we're using $500,000 of E&D that from our own reserves. Again, only to benefit the member communities. And we've been doing this for the past 7 years. We've always ended the year with a fully funded E&D account. When we get certified, we're always at or over the 5.
Okay, and that's based on, I'm assuming similar to how we sort of replenish free cash based on, not spending up to your fully appropriated budget for the year.
Yeah, we try to be as conservative as possible with our spending.
Okay.
We try to be fiscally responsible, and that way we make sure that our E&D balance is healthy.
Got it. And help me just do some quick math. The 5% max for you guys amounts to?
It's around 1.65 million.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And just the final question, I also noticed there's, the budget does include a removal of 800,000 in capital projects, which I understand makes sense when you're building a new school, you're putting less money into the existing school. But again, I guess help me understand what the long-term trajectory is there, because presumably at some point you're going to have to start adding dollars to that. And so how do you intend to do that while staying within that 3% sort of policy threshold that you have in place?
So the 800,000 isn't, we didn't put it in the budget this year because it's not we're not intending to, we didn't intend to use the 800,000. We already have it set aside in a separate account. So therefore, if we're not going to use the money, we didn't feel a need to appropriate the money. Because as you know, if it's going to be spent, it needs to be appropriated within the budget.
Yep.
So we felt it was fine to take that out because there's no immediate need to use that.
Yeah, no, totally appreciate that. I think that's appropriate. I guess my question is more thinking about future years. So at some point, particularly when you're in a new building, I mean, ideally you're spending less in capital in a new building than you are in an old building, but you still have to spend money on capital each year.
Sure.
Do you have a vision as to sort of what the strategy is to sort of build up that appropriation each year while still staying within, that 3% increase that, you've targeted to stay below in the future? I mean, are you talking about pulling money out of E&D? Are there other offsets in the budget that would allow you to sort of build that appropriation back up when you do have a building that you'll, be spending some money on?
Yeah, if necessary, we would pull from E&D and a combination of both. But that's not it's not ideal. But should that ever need to come to fruition, then that's how we would plan to. Similar to many other districts who have other regional schools, other vocational schools, E&D is there for that purpose, typically.
Yeah, I just, I ask because I think that it's appropriate for this year, but I don't want this to be used as sort of a budget balancing technique to get us below 3%, knowing that, at some point that bill will come due in terms of the trend of having to put money back into that account. So, all right.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
We feel that, it's conservative enough in terms of how much we use of E&D that we'd be able to replenish that on an annual basis.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Counselor McLean.
I had two questions. One regarding the assistant superintendent has been asked and answered, so I will pass by that one. But one thing that I wanted to understand a little better, Jay, you had indicated that our costs are a little higher than some other communities. In fact, it looks like in various cases, some of the larger users are maybe half of our cost, if I'm reading the materials correctly. Could you explain how that process works? It's kind of, I guess, a means testing that our citizens can afford more? Is that how it is working out?
Well, the way the assessment works is the baseline, it starts with the minimum local contribution. So that's determined by the Department of Revenue. They determine based on the wealth of your citizens, your income and property wealth of your citizens, what they should be chipping in for these educational costs. And that's in some poorer communities or less fortunate communities, that number tends to be lower because the income and property wealth is not as fortunate for those communities as it is for Wakefield.
So this is a DOR formula is
Yes.
what you have to use. Okay, thank you.
Yes. You're welcome.
Thank you. Counselor Dombrowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, everyone tonight for this presentation. I think it's very helpful. On the budgeting piece, I appreciate that you are using 3% as a ceiling. I'd like to see it as zero-based budgeting, as I would within our town, but I do appreciate your fiscal prudence. I think one thing that a lot of people in Wakefield are probably interested in knowing is we're obviously one of 12-member communities, but we are unique in that we're the host community, if you will. You know, the facilities are here within our own town. What benefits or positive impacts does Wakefield get as a result of that?
I guess, you know, I do whatever we can to be a great partner with Wakefield. As you know, the school is very often used for police trainings. We currently, we fund out of our school budget, a school resource officer. We like to work collaboratively with the athletic director, with sports fields. We like to think that, you know, on weekends and after school time that the residents utilize our parking lot and our area when they're attending break heart. There are no specific monetary examples that I can give you. There's no savings that's allowed under some of the regional regulations. But, you know, we try to be a good neighbor to you all. And it was placed in Wakefield before I was born. The regional agreement was signed before I was born. And when I was a student at Northeast, it was also in Wakefield. So, but as you know, we've had discussions, and Mr. Mayo and I have had discussions that we are always open to do what we can for the town of Wakefield. In fact, one of the notes I got from being on the meeting a little bit early was listening to the library trustee and trying to come up with some ideas that I was going to talk to my staff tomorrow about as far as storage or construction of a facility in Wakefield at a minimal cost. So there are a lot of things we can do more of, but my door is always open, and I'm always willing to listen to an idea and help out in any way we can.
Because I guess that's what I get at, Mr. DeBerry. I mean, it seems like one thing that I know that we've spoken a lot about, you know, over the years is looking to increase synergies between our educational facility, you know, here and the one that you can literally see when you walk out this door. And I feel like that, you know, we're getting to a better point with that, but I'd like to be able to see more of how we can both be more collaborative, because I think that's beneficial to our students. But I think there's also cost efficiencies to be recognized and realized as a result of that. You're along with my thinking, because I'm like, I'm sure that, you know, the Northeast can build
the equivalent of a 2-car garage or something, some kind of structure for what we're talking about here earlier. And it would be a great project, right? So I'd like to be able to see what we can do. And that's why I was asking, because I think a lot of residents, because there is an impact, as you heard earlier, and there are neighbors to this, to the school. There's, there's traffic that's created as a result. And I want people to understand that because of the way that the regulations are, we can't, as again, like I'll say, the host community, receive any sort of financial benefit in that, a discount in terms of our obligation. So I'd like to understand other ways in which we could perhaps realize more benefits, if you will, and work more collaboratively with you, going forward, because I think it's really important. I'm thinking even about this studio, and I don't know what kind of program Northeast has or may not have relative to, what we're doing here, and our own high school, has its own TV studio, for instance. And I know that WCAT is really having issues right now from a funding perspective and trying to think about ways that they can be, more innovative. Can we collaborate better with Northeast in that front? And is that another way to perhaps solve one of those issues? So I'm just trying to think through, but I do want to recognize that in every time that I've reached out to you folks, you've been very helpful. I'm thinking about even a 4th of July float that your students built, for one of our organizations in town. Those sorts of things, but I'd like to see more of it going forward. And I do think that ultimately we'll get a better student experience and a more efficient tax, impact for our residents.
Absolutely, and I was a little caught off guard because we have so many projects, but I did want to add also Dr. Scazzarella has been in contact with the principal of Wakefield High about us loaning our stage out for their graduation so they don't have to rent one, which can be very costly. We also have done work recently with the Civic Center, and we, constructed some bookshelves and other things as well. And I have had conversations within the past probably month with WCAT about working together. And that's something that's ongoing. I know they were having discussions with the town of Wakefield, and we were gonna touch base again in the spring. And I did offer any support in any, space that Northeast currently has to support WCAT as well. But I think the most important piece is when the new school is built, the library and media center, and we'll finally have an auditorium. And these are things that I think will greatly help the citizens of Wakefield in a multitude of ways.
I just think that's really important and is a value add for our community, certainly. And that synergy, I think, will be so important going forward, especially with the amount of money that's being spent on both facilities. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Counselor Smith-Galvin.
Thank you. I know that we're here to discuss the fiscal year 24 budget, but Superintendent DeBerry, since you started by outlining possible two additional possible funding sources for the large construction project coming up, and given what we frankly heard this evening in public participation, I wonder whether you could just briefly walk us through where the construction project sits right now.
Well, we're very close. We hope to be getting approval very soon from the ZBA. And we're looking for an order of conditions that we feel is very close from the Conservation Commission. Those two things could happen as soon as the next week or two, and that's our hope. And then we would be looking to start the project really soon.
Okay. And my understanding is that you did get the MIPA feedback from the petition that was filed. Can you just
Yes,
summarize
we
what
did.
that said?
Yep, that, as expected, went in our favor.
Meaning
I
that there's
think,
not, there's not a need for an
I think
additional MIPA review. Doesn't meet any
Correct.
thresholds, is my understanding.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And yeah, as you recall, last time I was here, I tried to dispel a lot of the statements that were not accurate by the opponents, and many are still being said that are inaccurate. And, I've been in front of the Disability Commission. I've been in front of multiple committees. I've corrected some of these misleading statements over and over again. And at this point, it's probably not a good use of anyone's time for me to repeat.
Oh, no, and
exactly.
that's not my intention, but I do appreciate
Right.
the summary of where we are, because there is a lot of information and it is very difficult to stay on top of it. I will say that I appreciate your FAQs on your website. I go to them often. I find that you put in word for word what people are asking and do try to respond to them. So thank you very much for that. I guess my only other suggestion is, we know you have your own governing board, but here in Wakefield, we hold all of our meetings virtually or in hybrid fashion. And it might just be something to think about. I think there's a great deal of value to having recorded meetings and having better accessibility. And I think it would go very far to allay any future concerns and to build some trust with the community. Thank you.
Okay, I can pass that on to my committee.
Thank you.
Dave, can I ask you a question? You mentioned when you started that Rep. Day and Rep. Lippert Garabedian had filed a bill to get more square footage funding. Steve, do we know about that? Can we write a letter of support?
We certainly can.
I would love to do that. And is there a Senate version or is it just in the House?
Well, that's the perfect question. We are hoping that Senator Lewis will support the exact language when it comes in front of the Senate.
Okay.
And that would guarantee it as a law.
So it's not a bill, it's a budget amendment. They're doing it this week as part of the budget.
Correct.
Yeah, so if we could, I think all of us would sign on to that, Steve.
Absolutely.
And if we could get
We have
that
a vested interest in
to,
that.
to Kate in
Yeah.
particular. But, you know, and Dave, I would reach out to all the communities and all the reps that are part of the community, because that helps not just Wakefield, but the 13?
Yep. Other 11.
11,
Yeah.
other
Yeah,
11
other 11.
communities. So yes, we will work on that in the budget. That's great that they file that. Thank you. And we will send.
If I could ask, Dave, could you send me the amendment that they filed?
Absolutely.
And then I can. get
Yep,
that
I'll
going.
send
Yep.
it tonight. Thank you.
Any other questions before I go back to Councilor Dombrowski? Go ahead.
So if we could just clarify too, because I think you heard this evening and we have been hearing, I think legitimate concern that people have raised about the trees and the deforestation. We as a town council don't have the authority that I think some people might assume we do. We certainly have a voice, but we're not adjudicatory. We're not a direct part of that process. So for people who do want to continue to express the concerns and reservations that they have, what is the best means by which they can make sure that their concerns are being heard through the ears of those who are the decision makers in this building project? Because I can appreciate and respect the concerns that people are raising with the community, but I don't want to give the community the sense that we have more authority over this project as a town council than we do. And we just candidly do not have the authority. We only have the voice and obviously ability to advocate on behalf of our residents, which we do. But ultimately, the decision making lies elsewhere. So where is the best place that people can continue to raise concerns that we continue to hear in our own community?
Is that for me? So I guess, I think that they've probably been to every one of our committee meetings. They've reached out to every board of every city and town. They've reached out to the governor's office. They've reached out to MEPA. So this is one of a multitude of boards that they've reached out to. And as I've said in the past, when presented with the actual facts that people agree that this project should be done and that there's an understanding why the project is being built where it's being built. And there's, when people take a real look at the plans and look at the area of space and look at the lack of space in areas that the opponents would like it to be built, then they understand that this was the best option. So they can continue, they write editorials, it's been in the newspaper. I think they've reached out to every single group. And I think they can continue what they're doing, but in the end, I think that people agree this is a great project. And it's not a perfect project. I think you're gonna find, obviously, when you start your project, that there will be opponents for that project as well. And you can't make everybody happy if you're going to, initiate progress.
So David, I think just what Counselor Dombrowski was kind of echoing what Counselor Smith Galvin said, is that there is just to think about going in the future about being a little bit more transparent. I know I've tried to find emails to write some of your school committee members, and they're not easily available on the website. So I don't know who to contact. So just things to think about as we go on. This is going to be a long process. They're reaching out to everyone because they can find our emails online. They can find our telephone numbers online. Your school committee does not have that. So just something to think about as you discuss with your school committee about more transparency and access for people to kind of give feedback. But we're excited to work with you as we have been all along. This is, and some of those ideas about collaboration were really, really appreciated. And we're looking forward to more of that in the future.
Great.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair. Move to approve budget number 33, vocational school budget for fiscal year 2024 as presented.
Second?
Great. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. 7-0. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Item
Thank you.
number 6, fiscal year 2024 articles.
Madam Chair, I am happy to go to item number 7, where we have the police chief here, and I think he's in there for that article. So if it's okay with you, I have to be here anyway, so we could jump him ahead.
Sure, I thought we could go quickly. through
Okay,
them, but
whatever you'd like to do.
Can we go quickly?
Sure.
Yeah, let's,
Okay.
I don't think it'll take long,
Okay,
right?
I hope not.
Okay. Sorry, Chief.
Sorry,
What-
Chief.
what-
I
I miss you. We haven't seen you in a while. I thought it would be quicker since
Okay,
we've done this.
no
and then I will take Melissa from ESC before Boys and Girls Club since she is in studio and they are not in studio.
Great. Okay, thank you. As I say, our budget odyssey is coming to an end for this fiscal year, and then, we'll go to town meeting, and then we'll start thinking about next fiscal year after this one is done. There are 4 articles in front of you this evening. These are normal articles that we have that, numerous town meetings, so they should be of no surprise to anybody, whether you've been to town meeting, been on this board for a while, or, been on other boards in town. So Article 3, the first one in your handbook here is the debt service article. And this is the article by which we pay our bonds. We pay our mortgage. Think of our mortgage payments, which includes the public safety building. It includes the furbishing to the Walton School. It includes the Galvin School. It includes the high school, what we've borrowed there so far. A lot of items we've paid off on this. We've paid off Doll Bear and Woodville, paid off the senior center, paid off Public Safety Building 1. But this is how we handle all of our borrowings. And this was really a ingenious way of doing this that happened many years before my time. We can thank Phil McCarty for putting this together many, many years ago with a gentleman named Dave Gilmartin that worked for the Department of Revenue. And they put together the debt service account where, we paid our debts as we came along and actually grew that account. So hopefully our thought was that someday we'd grow that enough that there'd be enough to pay for a complete project. However, what we do is we put more projects into it, so it's kind of a nice way of smoothing that out. So this year we'd be looking for $4,337,400 to pay our bonds on this. Now, bear in mind that there's $1 million that comes off the top when we set this up. So the actual cost of our bonds is $5.3 million, but at town meeting, we only appropriate we appropriate 4.3, and the other $1 million the town council actually moves over. You may recall we have that vote every year. Kevin comes running into my office, say, Steve, don't forget to put this on. I said, I won't forget to put this on. So this would be done at town meeting. Of that, $2,479,660 is for the Galvin debt exclusion, and the other $2.8 million is from the tax levy. It's really all from the tax levy, but the $2.4 million for Galvin is that old debt exclusion. So if there aren't any other questions, I'd be looking for a motion to support the 4,337,400.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, discussion? All in favor? Aye, 7-0. Thank you.
Okay, the next item in front of you is indemnification. Now, as the council knows, is that whenever a police officer or a firefighter is injured in the performance of their duties, these expenses are not covered by health insurance. So what happens is we actually pay the medical costs for these directly for a couple of reasons. The big reason is that our health insurance premiums would go through the roof because they're susceptible to happen here. So we refund this every year that we, when we come along. And so the cost of this article this year is $65,000, $55,000 being fire and $10,000 being police. This number will fluctuate every year or every few years or so. You might recall a couple years ago we had a very large number here, and that was because of a firefighter that had died of cancer, and that was an on-duty thing. So we would like to have this be zero every year, but 65,000 is not a huge amount here, and we will ask that this comes out of free cash because we actually need to pay those bills now.
Madam Chair, move to approve the indemnification article as presented.
From free cash.
From free cash, thank you.
Second.
Great. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye, 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Medicaid consultant, and this is, I guess, one of the more exciting articles that we have. I know I get excited about these things, and I'm sorry about that. What we do every few years, the last time we funded this was in 2020, that we actually contract with UMass to navigate federal regulations regarding medical expenses for some of our special ed students. And what happens is as you know, special ed is a big amount of money, and it should be used to help these students out completely. But there are a lot of those costs that are actually medical. An example, and they should, Councilor Dan, he knows from being on the school committee, they should not be charged to the educational budget. It just doesn't make sense to me. It never did. So we have engaged for many, many years now on a contract basis with UMass, and they navigate all of these federal regulations and actually have had a great success rate. Costs that we pay about $7,000 to $10,000 a year on, we get back great returns. And so in fiscal year 18, we got back $74,000 for our $7,000. Fiscal year 19, $84,000. Fiscal year 20, $91,000. Fiscal year 21, $114,000 back to the town. Fiscal year 22, we got back $312,000 to the general fund. And this year, through April 1st, we've received $190,000 back. So this has been a great program, great success, and a great partnership on a contract basis with UMass. And we're looking for $25,000 from free cash. It's in an article. It will remain in an article, and we hope this will cover us for the next 2+ years.
Right. Madam Chair, move to approve the article as presented with $25,000 coming from free cash.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilor Dennehy.
I just have a question. When did this start? Remember?
I want to say 2015, 2016.
It's
Around-
really, it's
yeah.
such a benefit. It is such a benefit to have this, and
Yeah.
I think it's probably one of the best spent money that we
Yeah.
can spend on this. So
Yeah, it's very unfair to saddle that in educational costs.
It is.
It
It
really is. So
absolutely-
this was really a great system we went through, and we'll continue as long as we can.
that's excellent. Thank you.
All in favor? Great, 7-0. Thank you.
Okay, the last article I have in front of you, and probably be the last article that we'll talk about in this budget size season, is the supplemental article for various town budgets, particularly police and fire. As the council knows, due to overtime, due to shortages, due to many factors, including long-term illnesses, short-term illnesses, as well as unfilled positions. And some of these have actually been COVID-related. That these are two departments that we need to staff. We need to have police on the street. We need to have firefighters servicing the public. So we would be looking for $275,000 total, which is $100,000 for the police, which 80,000 of this being personal services and 20,000 for oil and additives. Guess, of course, gasoline went up, so that's part of it in this. And 175,000 for fire, 143,000 in salary, and 12,000 in oil and additives, and 20,000 in an auto repair issue. One of the systems on one of the trucks let go that we had to take care of. So we'd be looking for a total of $275,000. I would recommend to the town council that for a lot of reasons, specifically because in memos I've shared to you before, I do want to maintain our bond rating, and I think part of that is increasing our reserves as much as we can. Taking $275,000 out of free cash could put a damper on that. I would suggest that we do take this out of ARPA funds as a one-time deal, that it's not a recurring expense, we hope, as they're fully staffed. And also, a lot of this illness and this overtime was actually caused to people that had COVID and were out for it. So it does kind of have a nexus there. So that's my suggestion to the town council on that budget.
Madam Chair, move to approve the supplemental budget article for $275,000 as funded through ARPA.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilor McLean?
Just one quick question, Steve. This isn't not insignificant amount of money being taken from ARPA. Can you tell us whether the Finance Committee approves of this?
No, they do not.
They don't approve?
They do not approve of this. They do not approve of ARPA funds. ARPA funds are only the town council's.
I don't think you're answering the
So
question.
they don't approve it from a process standpoint.
From a process standpoint.
From a process
Right.
standpoint, are they okay with it?
I will tell you that members of the Finance Committee's forecasting subcommittee were in favor of this.
Okay, that's all
Yeah.
I have.
Okay,
Thank you.
I missed, I'm sorry. I should have read you. Better check your watch. Your thing went up again. No, it's,
Okay.
no. They
That's
don't.
all I
as a-
have. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Counselor
I'm sorry
Dennehy?
to get your question right.
How much do we have left in ARPA funds
Um,
that's not
2
allocated?
2.4 million prior to this
2.4
discussion.
prior? Okay.
That's assuming that everything that the town council has approved, I'm sorry, 2.64 million. That's assuming everything the town council has approved in our past dealings will be completely spent. So if we find that, certain items in there, and we'll have another update in June, if we
Okay,
find
good.
that it cost, for title searches, it cost 20,000 or 25.
Yeah.
Then that 5 would come back in.
So this is the least amount that we'll have is 2.64.
Yeah.
Minus this. Yeah,
yes.
minus this.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Counselor Dombrowski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Mayor, what do we have approximately in free cash right now, say after town meeting?
After town meeting, we will have a little bit over 3 million in free cash, 3.3.
Okay.
I feel that I think I see revenues come in, where I see returns from the town, I think that we'll close out fiscal year '23 with somewhere north of 6 million in free cash, which will be healthy and will look good, and that's what the bond will be based on, that amount.
And I don't know if you have this in your binder, you probably do. But what
I brought two with me.
what is we allocated, I think it was either 400 or 420,000 towards the home heating program for this past season. What is the remaining balance?
That's an excellent question. We got a very slow start there, and frankly, I should have had that number. I should have looked on that today. I don't know if Sherry has it. We did a lot of the bills, but there's going to be a healthy balance in that.
I guess what I'm asking
that we could roll over to the next fiscal year.
Well, what I'm thinking though instead is, I would rather, if we're to use ARPA funds in this way for this one time, I would rather take the balance of what's in that home heating, apply, allocate those funds to this purpose, and then reevaluate the home heating need next season, if that makes sense. rather than
I
kind
think
of-
we could do it that way later on anyway, when all the funds come in. I think either way, we can do what you accomplish, what you want to
Right.
accomplish.
I just don't like the idea of kind of knocking down the balance and then having like this. I think it's probably I would venture to say about 300,000 in home heating. That's probably unallocated or.
I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that high.
250.
Yeah, I
Say
think
250.
that's
So I
about
mean,
it.
we're talking 25,000, right?
Right.
So I would sooner claw back those funds since we've gotten through that season now, and then reevaluate what that need and allocation should be next year.
The only thing I like about doing it this way is from an accounting standpoint, I can give a very clear, I can give a clearer report, I think, when we do our reporting to the federal government. I think it's a little bit cleaner this way, personally.
I thought of the home heating as being a one-shot infusion for this past season, subject to reevaluation.
Right.
Not
And we can
like,
still do
not
that.
an ad
We can
infinitum.
still do that.
So I guess if I'm voting to support this, it's with that understanding that those funds are not necessarily going to be allocated the same way next season.
Right, I think that we're
depending on
going
how
to
things
review
are.
all ARPA funds.
Yeah, I think that's the
Oh,
plan
yes,
of the June
yes,
meeting
yeah,
is to look
yeah.
at everything. So things that we didn't spend, they'll go
Right,
back
go
to
back
kind
to
of
the-
the ARPA
yeah,
fund.
general pot.
And then we would have to reallocate it.
Yeah.
And then some stuff, like Julie's water truck, are costing more than we anticipated.
She
So
used to be reasonable. I don't know what happened.
but yes, that is the expectation, that it is not in perpetuity
Right.
again, and we would go back. And that is for a June meeting. We wanted to get
Yes.
through the budget, and
Every
then Steve will give
quarter we
us
wanted to do
another
that, yeah.
quarterly update.
So I'm comfortable with that as
Yeah.
long as that, so it's not like those dollars are taken off the table
I
indefinitely.
think
No.
when we started that home heating, we thought we were going to really be a lot worse.
I know.
And
yeah.
luckily, it was a little warmer winter, prices came down a little bit.
And
a lot
don't
of
get me
the
wrong,
things
I supported the program.
Yeah.
But I just think we have to do that reevaluation. You know,
I
on
will,
an
I will
annual
make sure that
basis.
we can do that either way.
Okay, so if
Yeah.
you feel more comfortable.
I feel more comfortable
doing
that
it
way.
like
from
that,
from an accounting standpoint.
if
I
it's
do.
6 versus 1 half
Yeah.
dozen, I don't have an
Yeah.
issue with that. Okay.
Any other questions on the supplemental budget? Budgets? All in favor? I 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you. And unless I'm lucky enough to get a contract done between now and town meeting, that'll be the last budget you're going to have. But I know I want to get one contract. If I can get one contract back, yeah, I'll be happier.
Nice to have more budget at least.
Thank you and Kevin for all your work
Yeah,
on
thank
that.
you.
That is much
Thank you.
appreciated, and we got through another budget season. Item number 7, Wakefield's Farmer Market. Hi, Chief. And I think we probably have some people online.
Yeah, I think it's the license agreement first with Anne Marie Gallivan.
Great. Hi, Anne Marie. Steve, do you want to?
Hi.
Steve or Sherry, do you want to give us an overview about this?
Well, as you know, farmer's market license comes up to us every 2 years. It's a great community event, weekly event, and that Anne Marie and her team does a great job of doing it. I'll say it's an absolute labor of love because you got to be out there every Saturday morning praying for good weather. And people have a lot of fun out there, a lot of camaraderie, the music and everything. And I certainly would recommend that we have had at our office 0 issues or complaints or anything. So I think it's a great town event. And Tom Mullen has drafted the basically the same agreement that we had before, and just kind of change the dates a little bit. So
Great. I'm just trying to find, when would this run from to?
this runs from
June
June
17th to October 28th.
and then
Great.
again in the winter market. So it will
Then the-
be winter market.
Great. And no other changes to the contract?
No.
Anne Marie, do you want to add anything?
We had a great year last year. We've got a really great year planned this year. I want to involve the community a little bit more, so we've got some fun things on the map. I don't know. Do you have any questions? For me, I'm excited for the season.
We do have some questions, so let's see. Councillor Smith Galvin.
Yeah, I think we're all really excited for the season. When you come in front of us, it means summer is on the way, which is amazing. I would just like to throw out an idea, and we don't need to make it part of the contract, but the town recently purchased some, what would you call them? So portable bike racks, I guess they are, light that we could move into place. I wonder whether you'd be open to the Safe Streets Working Group, maybe kind of putting together volunteers and having a bike valet as part of the farmer's market.
I think that would be so much fun. I think that would be a great idea.
Okay.
That would be a great idea. Yeah, definitely have someone, I love to collaborate with things like this, and that would be a wonderful idea.
Okay, that's great. I'll reach out to them and get in touch. I did talk to them briefly about it. I'm
Please.
sorry I didn't get a chance to reach out to you beforehand.
No worries.
But hopefully we can work something like that out, and the bicyclists will have the best parking around. And hopefully it'll
Great.
actually
They've
alleviate
asked
some of
for it.
the car parking problems as well.
They've asked for it. Bikers have asked for that, so that would be really,
Okay,
that would be.
I'll reach out to
great.
you.
Excellent.
Counselor Danahy?
Thank you. Thank you for all your work that you do. We all love the farmer's market, and
you.
it's so well run, and it's such an enjoyable thing to do. I love bringing friends from out of town to it and show off what we have. So thank you. One thing though that I've noticed is that it seems like the traffic is potentially really problematic, and I'm really afraid that an accident's going to occur, either a pedestrian getting hit or something. There's not great visibility, and I'm wondering if there needs to be police detail, especially with people parking across the street in the MLD parking lot.
I'm definitely open to discussing about traffic and what we can do about it, because it is a problem, and if we could relieve some of it. Your concerns are mine as well in some points. We've thought about how that would work, so I think maybe working with the town, we could figure something out. I know as a nonprofit, we could not afford to hire someone to work every day, every Saturday for those hours to do a traffic detail. So I don't know how that would work. But I'm definitely open to it because I agree. And I think the community as a whole would appreciate to have a little bit more safety in around that area. And less congestion.
Right.
Are you done?
Yes, thank you.
Sorry. Counselor McLean.
Following up on that, Chief, I had asked the town administrator about this myself recently, and I was wondering, first of all, from 9 to 1 every Saturday for a some month period, do you think you could find someone? I understand you can't always find people to do details.
Probably not. It's very difficult to fill details on Saturdays, as it is.
What's going on?
So officers in the regular shift rotation only get every 5th and 6th Saturday off. So I can guarantee you that when they get that Saturday off, they'll want to spend the time with their family. Off the top of my head, one of the possible solutions would be a lot of people park half up on the sidewalk right near Vets Field, half in North Ave. I would recommend prohibiting parking from that section all the way down to, is it Lakeview Ave? Off the top of my head. And there's one street right before that. I think it's Lakeview. But allow parking in the gas department lot where the workers park. There's a crosswalk there. Much easier for people to park in that lot, use the crosswalk to get in across North Ave. Now you don't have cars kind of half in the travel lane, in the northbound travel lane there. It makes it easier for the joggers, the bikers, the walkers to get around the cars, because that becomes a problem. So I think you leave some traffic congestion there and make it easy for the people trying to navigate their way around the lake. And parking is much easier in that parking lot, and there is a marked crosswalk there. I think that's one possible solution.
A lot,
I
you're
do
talking like
say
on
that-
the parking across from the MLD parking lot?
There's two lots there. There's a small lot at the front of the building for customers going into the light department.
Yeah.
But there's a bigger lot on the back side of the building.
Oh, I didn't know
Typically, the
that.
light department
Oh,
and
yeah.
gas department don't work on Saturdays.
Yeah.
And I would guess there's got to be at least 50 to 60 parking spaces in there,
Oh.
which I would think would be
People
enough.
park there.
But you're saying
People
don't
do
park on
park
North
there.
Ave, on North
I don't
Ave?
think we should allow parking on North
But
Ave.
I think a
It's
lot
too
of the vendors
problematic.
park there.
No, they shouldn't be parking there.
Yeah, but I think that's where I've seen like trucks and things. Yeah, the trucks are all parked there. So that might be something, I don't know where they would park, but I mean, I think that is a concern.
Or maybe we could put them in the lot that's in front of the gas department building.
Yeah.
I think there's maybe 20 spaces there. So put the vendors there, the customers in the larger lot where the crosswalk is.
Maybe let them know about the larger parking.
I do know that they do use that parking spot, that parking lot. We do use that, the big one, quite a bit, and it does fill up quickly. We're trying to get people to walk this year. We're doing more of a park within the town, places to park on the website, things like that, getting them more in downtown and having them walk over. Maybe with the bike valet and things, we can get some synergy going and get people to walk down. I'm not sure how it would all work. I am concerned about the vendors because they will take up a lot of that. They'll take up that whole lot next to the light department where you park for customers, and where everyone works. The bigger lot, I'm not sure. I don't know if it's going to be a challenge not parking on North Ave.
So Steve, can I just make a recommendation? We have a community economic development manager, and I would love for Lieutenant Anderson and Erin to meet with Anne Marie and some of her board people to kind of talk about it. There are hundreds of people, most of us included, that go every Saturday, and so let's think about if it's not a police officer detail of some other kind of traffic calming, because it does back up all the way to Main Street, way down where I live. So, thinking about some creative solutions, and thank you for thinking about parking in other locations. And, it's very easy. When I go with Counselor Smith Galvin, she makes us park downtown and walk over so we get our steps in.
But that's what we're encouraging.
Yeah,
We're gonna
I
try
think
to
that's
encourage that
I think
more
that's
this year.
great. But I would actually love for Erin and Lieutenant Anderson with Chief and Anne Marie to kind of think about it, because on Saturday mornings, let's think about some solutions. I don't think getting rid of all those parking spots is going to work, especially since the vendors use them, but maybe we can do some creative signage that we've been talking about other, parking at Town Hall, or biking. Counselor Dombrowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First off, Emery, I'll say that I think last year's farmers market was probably the best, and the year before that I thought was the best. So each year it just keeps improving. So just keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Chief, look, one thing that I have noticed being in that area a lot on Saturdays, do you think that there would be any benefit to even where we have like the double yellow line, having like some sort of like say like temporary cones, almost like the yellow crossing, the neon yellow crossings that we have at the crosswalks, just having something like that could just be set up just during those hours. So like visually it just kind of gives people the sense, okay, there's a lot of crossings going on here. So they're not maybe as inclined to try to fly through the area.
Are you talking right at the crosswalk where the gas department is?
Well,
or-
we have the blinking signage there, right? So I'm thinking more just kind of like a long, like literally the middle of the road kind
We
of.
could.
but a
I
couple
do
more of
like
those.
if you've seen the freestanding crosswalk signs that go in the middle of the road, they're on a stand, they're very effective.
Yeah.
Right,
Very-
that's what I'm thinking.
yeah.
Like we have them like on Main, kind of like by.
We
like-
could put one out for that time period on Saturdays. If we were to leave it there all the time, I can guarantee it would get run over.
Oh, absolutely. No.
So-
But I'm just thinking like things like that we can do that just as a part of the setup would
Yeah.
maybe helpful.
And we can
Yep,
put
we could do
maybe some
that.
orange barrels right down
That's
the
what
center
I'm thinking.
lane.
Right, orange bells right down the center might be enough to kind of let people know. Okay,
We can
slow it
coordinate
down.
with the DPW on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
So, I mean,
They're
let's get
agreeable
Erin
to
and
pretty much
Lieutenant
anything.
Anderson.
But whatever you'd like to try, let's try it.
I think too, Anne Marie, the idea of we've invested a lot into Floroway now too, which is not that far.
Yes.
So I'd love to be able to see folks parking say on Common, for instance, and then walk Floroway to get to the farmers market, things like that. And
Yeah.
obviously then we have Town Hall parking lot too, but plenty to be thinking about. But I think if those are the kinds of I think concerns that people have that would be well addressed, and also showcase another part of our town too.
Can I ask you a question? One thing I'd like to ask of Anne Marie is on your website, do you advertise
alternative parking areas?
Yeah, I'm working on the map now. I do have a little blurb down in the info on where to park, and in fact, you could go to the town hall and walk down to Lafayette, or walk through Floral Way. But I'm working on a visual map now too, to try to get people from the downtown to, and something that I want to share and add to all our marketing and media throughout the season. So it'll be like in addition to, this is where you can park.
Okay, thank you.
So that's a work in progress.
Counselor Chines?
Just, one thought on this. First of all, love the work that you're doing, Anne Marie, you and everyone on the committee. I
Thank
know
you.
it is a labor of love, and it's a labor of love from a lot of volunteers as well. So I'm incredibly excited for the season to start. I mean, it is, as Julie mentioned, it's a sign of spring that it's coming. Just on the parking side, I love the idea of having kind of an alternative map for places to park. And I know one of the things we always talk about on the council is how do we get more people downtown to activate with our businesses. And so I'm going to maybe suggest for, this little group that we have with Erin and others, does it make sense to involve the chamber as well? And I'm thinking maybe there's an opportunity to create some sort of incentive to encourage people to park downtown when they're using the farmers market. Maybe, the chamber, pitches in some funds to, give people a couple of market bucks to spend, or something that kind of ties in downtown to the farmers market in a creative and maybe fun way.
I think we should bring them in on that.
Yeah. But thank you for everything you do. I mean, I'm, again, incredibly excited that, we're approving this today.
Anne Marie, how's the best way if people do want to volunteer? Because you're always looking for more volunteers. Should they go to the website?
Go to the website. I have there's a volunteer page. It's if you're down at the lake and you're by our shed, the storage shed, there's a big sign with all the info on how to volunteer. It really is, and I thank my volunteers. They're wonderful. They're amazing, and they give up their Saturdays every single Saturday of their summer, and we could not do it without them. And so, but we're a fun team. It's a fun time, and the market is really, and I say it, it's the only place where everybody is happy and gets along, and people are in line and they're talking and they're making friends. And when we were at Wakefield 101, people were talking about how they just moved here, and that's where they met their friends. Their new friends in the community was waiting for coffee or getting carrots or whatever. So, yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to my volunteers, that they're wonderful and I love them.
Much deserved. Thank you. Okay, so we have to vote on the license agreement. Do we have a motion, Jonathan?
We do. So move to approve the license agreement for 2023 and it looks like 2024 as presented.
Second.
Could I actually just suggest, I know that Chief Scory has offered up comments that might impact how the agreement reads. So perhaps we should allow him to first present and then we could revisit the approval if that pleases this body.
Does the license affect our?
I think that might be an amendment, you might change the license.
That's what I'm suggesting.
Okay,
yeah.
Suggesting,
okay,
yeah.
so.
That's not in there as of yet.
Okay, so I jumped the gun, so let's
That's okay. That's why we have discussion.
move on to the police chief request. Chief Scory.
Yeah, good afternoon. Last year I was here to express my position on sampling of alcohol at the farmers market and my opposition to that. And once again, I'm here to do the same. I believe the farmers market should have a family affair atmosphere that doesn't include the consumption of alcohol. I'm not opposed to vendors selling alcohol at the market. However, I don't think the sampling of alcohol products is necessary, especially where there's nobody on site to enforce the rules of sampling. Master Chapter 138, Section 15F allows for a 1 ounce sample to be given with a limit of 5 per customer. Right now, we only have one vendor that's requesting to give alcohol samples, but nothing's to say that in a couple of years, we don't have 5 vendors that would like to give out samples, which means that one person could get 25 samples at the farmer's market. In 2015, we had 3 vendors selling alcohol, and they did so without sampling, and they were successful. You know, the benefit to purchasing products at the farmer's market that doesn't exist in a retail setting is the personal interaction with the people who prepare the product. There's an opportunity to make an informed purchasing decision by learning firsthand about the product and its qualities. People purchase alcohol in retail liquor stores all the time without being provided samples or being given personal knowledge of the product's production. So, again, I'm here to voice my opposition to sampling, but what I'd also like to do is to have an amendment put in the rules and regulations of the farmer's market that would prohibit sampling of alcohol. And I think adding this prohibition to the rules and regs would prevent sampling from being an issue each year.
And Madam Chair, I amend my motion to include the request for that edit to the rules and regulations attached to the license agreement.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Counselor McLean.
Chief, I did look at those sampling amounts, and they didn't seem to me to be, and I supported this request of yours last year, but I haven't given it further consideration because they didn't seem to be all that great, total of 5 ounces. I did ask Aranac last year, the wine producer, whether they thought their business had been impacted, and they didn't overstate the case, but they said they thought it had. The mead person in particular, not everybody knows what mead is, let alone drinks it. So it seems to me from a business perspective, they would possibly, benefit by having the sampling. So I guess I'm kind of on the fence on this one. I mean, we have a lot of, social clubs in Wakefield. I'm an adjunct member of at least one. We do have a beer tent, down by the, which seems to be, you have a very long line. I don't know who's checking over there. And I wonder too, Steve, is this something where, Board of Health could monitor it, or is it outside their purview?
I don't think you'd have Board of Health
Yeah.
people down there. You'd have ABCC people maybe, but they're not going to come out to farmers market,
Right.
I don't think.
Yeah, I guess I'm just kind of on the fence about it because it doesn't seem to me to be too extreme. I understand your concern. What if we get up to 4, 5, or 6?
That, and one of my concerns is, we don't know what people drink before they get there. So, it's a fact of life that there are people who enjoy their alcohol.
I am aware.
And some people may drink before they get there. And then we add 5 ounces of whatever percentage proof wine, maybe from one vendor. And like I said, I know that right now, there's only one vendor requesting sampling. But what happens in 2, 3, 4 years when the farmer's market continues to grow and all of a sudden we have 5 or 6 vendors that would be able to give samples? Are we going to then say it's a bad idea when we've been allowing it for X number of years? So that's why I take this position now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we could revisit it. We do revisit things, if that occurred. But I understand your concern.
Anne Marie?
I will say it did affect the business of the vendors, the 2 alcohol vendors. I do see what you're saying about, if there are 5 or 6 alcohol vendors, so I can see that perspective. I will say that they don't give that many. If they gave out the 1 ounce samples, they would all go broke. So they usually don't. It's really just for a taste, and they've got to go through all of their licensing agreements and everything. So they're really good about it. I've been to other markets where they have sampled, and it does help because it does give them that extra, because you can taste everything else at the market, but to try it, but you can't taste that. And I do think it does affect their sales. I don't know. I'm coming from a business standpoint, and so, but I can see what you're saying about the more than 2 or 3 of vendors in that respect. So it's something that I would have to consider in a more, be more educated on what to do with it and how to move forward. I know that they were upset. We were also talking about, is it possible to maybe reduce the samples to maybe 2? That was something else that was considered, but I'm just going to throw that one out there. But that was all I wanted to add, that it did affect their business.
Any other questions or comments, Councillor Chines?
You know, I think just as a comment, I mean, you know, similar to Councilor McLean, I mean, I see both sides of this, right? You know, I mean, I'm someone who has, you know, at other farmers market, not that I go to other farmers market other than Wakefield anymore, but in the past at other farmers market, I've been happy to sample things, and that is, you know, a nice benefit to have. You know, I don't think there's a huge risk of abuse, just given the size of the samples that we're talking about. With that being said, I also, quite frankly, don't think it's a huge benefit to the vendors that are there. I mean, I've purchased from both of those vendors. I've probably purchased things that I wouldn't have purchased had I sampled them beforehand in some cases. So that may have helped their business to some extent. I guess I look at this and think it's just not necessary. You know, we have an active, vibrant market, thanks in really no small part, you know, Anne Marie, to the work that you and your team does. We have tremendous vendors that have come back, you know, year over year, and you know, including you know, Honey Bear and Aranap, even without sampling last year. And so, from my perspective, you know, this is one where I think we've got a product that works for the people of Wakefield. I think it works for the vendors without sampling, and you know, my inclination would be to move forward without sampling for that reason.
Councillor Dabrowski?
I think also, I certainly see both sides of this, and I agree. I think there's not an easy answer, but I am also deferential to our chief. And I mean, he's our chief public safety, you know, officer. And so I defer to your judgment on this, chief, and your experience, and you know, and your expertise. So I have tremendous respect for you. I know you're always making decisions that you believe are in the public safety interests of our town, and I think this is no different. So for that reason. But again, I see both sides of it. I completely understand what you're saying, Anne Marie, from a business perspective. I'm thinking about that as well. But I think on balance, I think that the scale tips in favor of Chief's recommendation for me.
Thank you. If I can make one comment on something Mr. McLean said. You talked about how we have Town Day and other events, pop-up events. Those are very controlled environments where the alcohol is served. Many planning meetings go into effect. Certain areas are cordoned off. There's always a police presence there. I can't put a police presence at the farmer's market. But all those other pop-up events, Town Day, very controlled environment.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm on the fence because of all the things that the other councilors have said, you know, and that is involving the level of risk here. You know, we don't, if someone shows up with a buzz at a farmer's market on Saturday morning, and I know it can happen, you know, we can't control everybody's activities. But I don't see this particular 5-ounce item, you know, as being that serious if it is hurting the vendors. And I know they've indicated it's hurt them, and we're hearing from the farmers market that they've indicated that as well. So maybe we don't lose them, maybe we don't lose the business, you know. I think from a public safety standpoint too, to the extent that we could have anybody by those intersections, even for an hour, whether it's a detail or not, you know, because people get very aggressive. My biggest risk of public safety down there, because I'm a walker, I come down the hill, is that people ignore and they get aggressive. And the traffic is just crazy. So for me, that's the biggest risk, bigger than this. But that being said, I'll support I just wanted to raise it because I think it's a close call.
Thank you.
Counselor Vincent?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think to amplify what Councilor Dombrowski said, what's telling me is that when the chief of police comes to our meeting and is sitting in the room at 8:50 at night and is providing us this expert advice as to what direction we should go in on sampling, that kind of does it for me. I mean, I know you're not here to hear me talk about warrants at 10 p.m. So I think the fact
feel free to stay.
You're invited.
But I think the fact that you came here tonight, that's a deciding factor for me. Thank you.
Anne Marie, is Aeronap coming back?
They are.
Okay.
Everybody's coming back. Now, I'm not saying that they didn't all do well last year. I'm just saying that I would be remiss if I didn't pass on their feelings.
Completely
about
understood.
the
I
sampling.
just wanted to it's not
Yeah. No, it was a very successful year last year. So they are coming back.
appreciate that. I just wanted to make sure I hadn't seen the list of all the vendors. Counselor Dennehy?
That was going to be my question. So
Okay.
thank you. And I mean, I think that answers it. And I will always defer to the police chief when it's an issue of public safety. So, I mean, I was like, I don't get it. I was like, but if you get it, that's what matters. So I'm not in public safety. So I will always defer to your judgment on it.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have an amended motion that was seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye, 7-0. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Anne Marie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne Marie.
Have a good night.
Thank you. So that makes 7B moot, right?
No, they still need to have a.
Oh, to
license
sell.
To sell.
Okay, that is not the, great.
So, Madam Chair, I move to approve the liquor license for House Bear with the caveat that it be restricted to sales and not sampling.
Second.
Great. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye, 7-0. Thank you. Thank you, Anne Marie. I think we're
So my question is, because this is my first time doing this, so now I need to add the rules and regulations. There's no more sampling in the rules.
we will edit that and get it to you to
Awesome.
sign. Yep.
Okay, and all right, excellent. Thank you so much. That'll make my life a lot
Yeah,
easier.
no.
to do that
We
for me.
will,
Thank you.
our town attorney will update it and Sherry will get it to you.
Oh, even better.
Madam
Thank you
Chair,
so
through you,
much.
just a question to Ms. Gallivan. I assume Aeronap will be coming in front of us for a license to sell at some point
I
as well?
would certainly hope so. I'm going to assume, since I don't see them here, that they're a little late. I will give them a nudge.
Great.
That
Thank you.
Traditionally,
have
they
not
come in
done
a little
that yet.
bit late.
Okay,
Okay.
got it.
Sherry, have they started the
do.
process? Do you know, Sherry?
No, they have not.
Okay, so
No,
a
not
nudge
yet.
would be appreciated,
Thank
just
you,
so,
Sherry.
just so they're
That
there by
would really hurt their sales if they didn't have
June
that
18th.
license.
Yeah.
I'll give them a nudge tomorrow.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 9, the Environmental Sustainability Committee update.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm Melissa Houston, the chair of the Environmental Sustainability Committee, and I'm here just to give some updates on what we've been up to in the last year. So this is our list of board members over the last year, and we have some updates that will be happening, some new people coming in next month, but just wanted to show the list. And we do have 3 student liaisons as well, also liaisons from other committees. Julie, thank you so much for all your support. So just to go through some of our accomplishments over the last year, we formally have put together subcommittees on various topics, and they have regular meetings and different initiatives that I'll be going over. We participated and provided education at many different town events over the last year, including Festival by the Lake, Town Day, Wakefield 101, and the first and second annual Sustainability and Recycling Days. We've also launched several school waste programs at the Galvin, Walton, and Greenwood schools. We've also completed Wakefield's first greenhouse gas inventory, which I'll be talking about, and we have continued to gather pumpkins at the schools in the fall for composting. We've also put forward some statements from the committee on large infrastructure projects. And we've also had Green Communities designation be successful. So as I said before, we have been very busy in waste reduction efforts over the last year. We started composting and food rescue programs at the Walton Greenwood schools. And through, for this year, from January to March, we've diverted about 4,700 food items to donated them to the Boys and Girls Club in Wakefield and Sonam, as well as the food drive in Melrose. We've also composted approximately 4,000 pounds of food scraps. We've also put together a video with the help of WCAT on these programs, and we will be doing an educational assembly on composting at the Greenwood School with help from Black Earth in the next month. We also started a recycling program at the Galvin Middle School last year, and we continue engagement and program updates for that. We also have been working on styrofoam and plastics bylaw compliance, working alongside Erin Kokinda and the Health Department on improving education and compliance in businesses. We've also started efforts to improve the recycling in multifamily properties around town. We've heard from many residents of these properties that they don't have recycling services, and this is in buildings that are over 4 units that the DPW does not service. And we estimate that this covers about 30 buildings and about 1,000 residential units that don't have recycling services. So we started working with the Board of Health and the Health Department to see what our options are. And so we're looking at whether it be through regulation or dumpster permits. So more to come on that. And as I mentioned, we fulfilled a Wakefield's first greenhouse gas inventory. This was through a baseline inventory that we think is a first step in understanding what the various sources of greenhouse gas emissions are in town through its operations and its residents. We believe that this provides a lot of benefits by conducting this inventory to Wakefield. Number one being just identifying and quantifying the sources of emissions within the town and what the magnitudes are, as well as benchmarking our emissions against other communities. It'll provide a better understanding of the factors contributing to the emissions, also assessing and improving our methods for measuring these emissions, and creates a starting point for setting emissions reduction targets or goals. And lastly, it'll help us be in line with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts decarbonization roadmap and the net zero by 2050 goal. So our process was based on the Metropolitan Area Planning Council's Community Greenhouse Gas Inventory tool, and we selected fiscal year 2021 as our baseline. And we used different data sources that MAPC provided, as well as data from WMGLD, DPW, and the census. So looking at the graphs on the slide, you'll see that the stationary energy, which is from buildings and transportation, caused nearly all of Wakefield's emissions. And we found that residential plus commercial and industrial buildings are the largest emissions contributors when combined. We also found that on-road vehicles are the single largest source of emissions at 43%. And then when it comes to heating and cooling our buildings, we found that residential fuel oil is the largest emissions contributor compared to other fuels. So some key takeaways from this inventory and some questions that we had for next steps. So looking at control versus influence, we found that municipal operations actually have a small portion of townwide emissions. So we asked what sources can the town control directly versus influence through policy and programs. As also stated, oil accounts for about 1/3 of the building energy emissions based on our methodology. So we recommend supporting the upgrade of homes and businesses to electric heat pumps. Also, the commercial industrial building emissions were significant, as well as residential building emissions. So what can the town or the utility do to incentivize emissions reductions in these categories? For example, the opt-in specialized stretch energy code. And lastly, as noted, on-road emissions are significant. So we recommend supporting the adoption of electric vehicles and infrastructure that supports walking, biking, and public and shared modes of transportation. We've also been very busy with community education. We started a sustainability speaker series with our first speaker being Gretchen Kelly from Republic Services, which is our recycling hauler. She spoke at the library in February to a sold-out crowd, and she talked about the do's and don'ts of recycling, what happens at our recycling processing plants, and we're also looking to set up a tour of our recycling plant in the coming months. We have our next library talk is actually next week, and it'll be on food and climate change. It'll be presented by one of our board members, Sean Cash. We've also been increasing our social media outreach, posting on Facebook about 109 times since last September, averaging about 3 posts a week on various topics to increase education and awareness. We also created a ESC email list for followers who are not on social media so that they can have access to important events and educational materials. We've also increased our website content on our webpage for programs and helpful tips where we have local sources on different topics like energy, waste reduction, land use, and transportation. We also have subcommittees on land use and volunteers. The land use subcommittee is involved in reviewing recreational land use opportunities within Wakefield, working with the Conservation Department to support establishment of the Conservation Stewards Program, engaging with the public over concerns of land use with the new Vogue site, providing representation on the Open Space and Recreation Plan Committee. And the volunteer subcommittee was established to get more residents involved in what we do, those that are not on the board, being involved in our subcommittees as well. So looking ahead, we will continue our enforcement of the plastics and styrofoam bylaws. We will encourage municipal opt-in specialized stretch code. We'll hopefully begin talking about climate change planning. We'll also be expanding the waste reduction efforts in schools, community events, and residential properties. We'll be supporting the open space and recreation plan. We'll be continuing our public educational awareness events, and we hope to also be a resource for other town committees and commissions. For example, the 40A MBTA committees, communities working group. And I'm hoping that you've all seen this video, but I wanted to play it. I'm not sure, Sherry, if you're able to press play.
Yeah, I think WCAT can.
Okay. No. Okay.
No,
Well,
they can't? Okay.
oh, sorry.
We'll post it.
Yes, we posted. This is the wonderful video that WCAT produced for us on the Greenwood and Walton composting food rescue program. And that's all I had.
Thank you so much. That was so great. And we should have started saying Happy Earth Month, because that's why we invited this committee. I think it's one of our newer committees, and it is so impressive, all the work that you've done, you and the committee and all the volunteers. Any questions or actually I'll go to Councilor Smith Galvin first as liaison.
I think Melissa did a great job. I am just so impressed by the caliber of volunteers we have and the creativity and the ideas and the response from the community. So I'm really proud of this committee. And thanks for hosting us.
Councilor Dabrowski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for this presentation and all the work that you and the committee have done, certainly. I do think, I'm glad to see the 40A reference there, because I do think that's going to be a significant concern, especially as it relates to green space, because we're talking about acreage and a good amount of potential units on an acre, and what kind of impact does that mean in a lot of areas that I think are rather dense already and don't have a lot of green space to be giving up, not a lot of permeable surfaces there. So I think that is going to be an emerging issue in the next several years, certainly. Two other minor things, but you hit on them. One, for the pumpkin program, I know that's at the schools. Is that something that any resident can be made aware of to go to?
Yes.
Yeah, because I think the more that can be promoted would be great, because I know that obviously all parents know about it, but a lot of folks who either don't have kids or might be older, have older kids, because I think it's a great program, and I know you have great collections too. And finally, this is just an observation from having done a lot of cleanups, especially around the schools. There are those little snack packs with the little corner that you tear, and those little corners are literally everywhere. I can't tell you, I've picked up probably thousands at this point. So I don't know in what way we can either think about a more robust litter awareness campaign, especially in our elementary schools, because I'm thinking of a couple schools in particular that are probably worse offenders. But also, the exterior of a lot of the buildings don't seem to really have the capacity to have enough trash receptacles too. So I think a lot of folks, there's just nowhere to put it. When I'm doing the cleanups, I've got a big bag with me that I can do it. But you look around and there aren't those receptacles. So maybe it's just something to think about. As you're looking at a lot of the work you're doing within the schools, that's, I think, a component that would be pretty helpful too. It would make my life easier.
So pick up the corner.
Yeah, the little.
campaign.
Pick up the corner.
Maybe we
campaign.
just have to teach people to open it like this.
You just
instead of like this.
because you literally you tear it off, and I know that's how you open it so often, but these little corners are everywhere.
Steve is giving you right now. I think maybe next meeting we need a show and tell.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get him a juice box.
No, because
Don't
those
put
are
little
wrappers
wrappers
on the
Oh,
bottom.
that's terrible.
I can go through a whole list. Trust me.
I think this is a comment, though. I know it comes up almost yearly about the littering always comes up, but at the courts and the number of trash containers there. So it is something to think about, to talk about the schools, about what outside they have. It helps a little bit. I know we got another trash can at JJ Rounds because the one there was overfilling. So it's helped a little bit. Councilor Chines, did I see your hand up?
No.
Okay, sorry. Councilor Danahy.
This is incredible, the amount of work that has been done by this committee. You're not even a really big board. I mean, you have done so much. I had one question for you. What is the date for the Sean Cash?
May 3rd.
May 3rd, okay, good. This is absolutely fantastic. Are there any talks, you talked about like 40A and things like that, but is there anything that we can do to work with developers who are building multiple units to, I don't know if we can mandate, but to strongly encourage or make regulations that they're, having heat pumps, that they have bike racks, that they have
Yeah.
everything that's sustainable. Can we work towards that as we start seeing things happening with 40A?
Yeah, so that would be the specialized stretch code would mandate those, the new buildings that are being built, depending on when we pass it and when they get their building permit, they would be under.
That we can put the regulations in
Yeah.
place. So I think that's fantastic that we could have a whole list of things that we could do.
Yeah, and as with the recycling at the larger buildings, we're hoping that with these new buildings that they'll be able to also offer that because we know that there's various new buildings around town that even though they're new, they still haven't offered the recycling services.
And that's a big problem. I many years ago, I did a consulting project for a marketing campaign, for a public awareness campaign around recycling for the state. And in the research that we did, everybody knew that recycling is important, that it makes a difference, but the difference between people recycling and not recycling was all convenience. And then we found that people who lived in apartments didn't have easy access. It wasn't easy for them to recycle, so they didn't.
Right.
So that's a really important, I think that's a really important point that needs to be continued. And I don't mean to give ideas because I'm not on this board and I'm not doing any of the work, but I do. But a friend of mine who lives in Newton, she said that she has like an electric vehicle and she has heat pumps, and she said that in her community, they have people who open up their homes like on a Saturday, and then they just have places that people can go to see heat pumps, to see, talk to people who have electric vehicles. So it makes it the introduction is easy, so you can actually talk to people.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Thank you for all of your work. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that was a great presentation. One thing that I've mentioned before, and with having Anne Marie here earlier today, is thinking about the farmers market as a place that people gather weekly. I've mentioned this to Steve a bunch of times, but when I went to the DC farmers market, people who lived in apartments could bring their composting there, and Black Earth kind of had a thing there every week, right? So for people who live in an apartment and can't do it. And so maybe that's a conversation, or like, DPW, I know we like cardboard boxes at the pit, but maybe we can do, for people that don't go to the pit weekly, for those others like me, is the farmer's market kind of a location where we could do something? And the recycling, I think those are the things that you can't put in recycling, the black plastics, takeout containers. So maybe, the farmer's market, I know a lot of us get a nonprofit table like once or twice over the summer. The black ones you cannot recycle.
You cannot put those in recycling. The optic camera will not see them.
Really?
And it contaminates everything. So all black plastic has to go into the trash can or be reused. Try to reuse
I
it
feel
as
better
much
about
as you
the fact
can.
that I have a stack of.
You need to have a stack of
100
them. And like I know our community
Entry.
dinners reuse them and everything, so there are places to reuse them. Yeah, it's a big problem.
So, this actually now raises a question. I feel like I'm someone who knows what is and isn't recyclable, and I learned something new here today, and so I wonder if there's an opportunity to help spread that word. But then also think about ways in which some of those items can be repurposed. So like I said, I have a closet full of those takeout containers that have just been accumulating. At some point I would like to not have that closet full, but are there places where they can be used? Can they be reused by someone, like the community?
And there are
dinners and
ways
so
to
forth?
recycle them through a special program, but it's
expensive.
It's costly.
Yeah, so at the, what Rep. Kate Lippert-Garabedian, the recycling event that she has, that's where I got rid of a bunch.
Yeah.
So if you actually waited every 6 months.
Well, we did that last year, but it's through TerraCycle, and their boxes are very expensive, so we ended up not doing it this year because of the expense.
So a lesson on what is recyclable and what is not would be helpful.
I encourage everybody to go watch the video of the
Gretchen.
Republic presentation
Yeah.
that was done. I learned so much.
Really?
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah, we're trying to share that on social media. I can definitely send it over to you guys.
That would be great. Is it on your website or?
That is a good question.
That's a good question. We'll get it on there.
Yeah. So we can share that too.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you so much, Melissa.
Thank you,
Happy
Melissa.
Earth
Thank
Month.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, item number 8, Boys and Girls Club of Stoneham Incorporated. I heard they might be expanding the name this week, Anthony, at a meeting we were at. Do we have anyone from the Boys and Girls Club joining us?
We got Anthony Guadias here, Amanda Haley, and is it John? Yeah, John Brinkman's coming. Adam Rogers.
Great. We can't see you on our screen, but you can all take it away.
Oh no. Yeah, they're still.
Oh,
just
now
kinda
we see you.
coming over. Okay, great. Great. There's John. Hey, John, can you hear us?
Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Thank you for taking the time to chat with us. I know Anthony usually likes to kick these things off, so I want to make sure I give him the opportunity to start us off first. He's never used Zoom before, though.
Oh, Anthony.
So shy.
Still can't hear
Still on
you.
mute, Anthony.
Jerry,
There
I
you
connected myself through the phone.
Oh.
781-718-0456 there.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Just because my internet connection is somewhat bad here. But
Yeah, I can allow you to talk. I just can't bring you over, but you should be able to. You should be able to talk.
We can hear you.
Can you try that again?
Oh,
Not
no, we
anymore.
can't. All right,
Wanna
in
try
the
it again?
interest of
All right, so
time.
let's do this. I'm going to
Oh, there
turn it
he
over
is.
to John, and we'll let John kick it off, and Amanda, who actually do the work, so better that.
Awesome. Well, again, Madam Chair, fellow councilors, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us, Steve, Sherry. I'm actually going to throw it to Amanda, who many of you know from the lake. This is kind of her expertise, so to speak. So I'll let her kind of drive on the slideshow that we put together, and then I'll also be available for questions. And Anthony's audio, once it fixes itself, I'm sure he'll chime in too.
Hi, everyone. Just to reiterate what John said, thank you for having us, and thank you for the town of Wakefield for having us. I've really enjoyed being able to work with the community, work down at the lake, meet people who are walking by, and it's been a lot of fun and a lot of growth for myself personally. So I don't think I have control of the PowerPoint, if I'm correct. Okay, let me make my screen bigger. I'm getting older, so my eyesight's needing some assistance there. So just on the past year, just some highlights. We were able to open earlier than when our first year was, about maybe a month or so earlier. So kind of get in on the weekends, the shoulder seasons of summer, if you want to call it that. We were able to stay open through October. The winds and sort of the stormy season impacted some of those operation days, but I know that there was some great festival and there were some other, I want to say, like fun runs that were going on the weekend. So we were able to kind of redirect people to explore downtown and other areas. We worked on single kayaks. We had 14 total. We had our 8 tandem 2-person double kayaks. Our pedal boats are really popular with family members who maybe have young children who they don't trust going out on the boats, or they want a little bit more sturdy. So we're able to kind of let those people explore the lake in the pedal boats, which are a lot of fun. Our whaler safety boat, came in handy a few times. It does, like I said, it got windy, kind of going out on checking on, making sure everyone's safe, life jackets buckled. We had a new reservation system, which I think streamlined a lot of our online sort of interactions and people signing up for our reservations are sort of hourly. And then also last year we had a pilot program of kayak lessons. So we had at least 16 youth come to learn how to kayak. We did the basics of on land, kind of learning about the boats, what's the best way to carry the boats, treat the boats, launching and landing on the boats. And they kind of got a chance to practice that out with the instructor, who was myself. So it was my excuse to actually get out on the paddle on the lake instead of, staying on land and letting the youth kind of handle that aspect of it. function of the business. We also are looking to redo our Groupon offers, which bring a lot of people who are outside of Wakefield into town. They get a chance to experience the lake, the playground's great there, kind of, you know, they'll ask for, is there a good place to grab ice cream or coffee or restaurants? And there's so many great places right up on Main Street, so we're able to direct them right up that way. And, you know, we've had a pretty good 4.8 out of 5-star ratings. I'll, you know, take that. That's a pretty gold star in my book. So if we can go to the next screen, please. Like I said, mentioned before, you know, we've worked with Wakefield Main Streets, Friends of Lake Quannapowitt, different other community organizations to kind of create that sort of loop of activity within Wakefield. We have a QR code, which you can see on the bottom, which, you know, we updated. We were able to direct them to restaurant menus and other areas. And then we also worked again with the library to give out passes for if kids are reading books. And then this past year, we kind of used it as like a museum. So if you were to get tickets to go see the dinosaurs at the Museum of Science, it was kind of a similar way, another way for people to access tickets. A lot of our staff, actually most of our staff are youth. Their ages, you know, 15 to 18. So a lot of times it's their first job through our First Jobs program. So they're getting that first professional taste of employment, you know, the ways to call in, call out, punch in, that customer service aspect. We were also able to kind of partner with other commercial offices. I think the Lakeside Park, they were able to let people know, you know, we have this lake here. If you want to explore it, here's where you can go for a good time. And we had our nature friends, the geese, flying around. We had our duck friends, so we kind of keep track and see what the trends are with their coming and going on the lakeside. Next slide, please. So this is, again, our connections to downtown. I know some businesses may have changed. We're still looking to work with everyone to, like I said, kind of make that loop of activity and engagement throughout the whole community. It's something that, you know, I like telling people, and it's just a short walk, so it's very easy to, you know, say it's a friendly access. Next slide, please. So this year we're looking to operate at a similar schedule, opening May 27th, going through October, weather permitting. So we're looking to do all of the community programming that we did last year. We have a great working relationship with Quannapowitt Yacht Club. They're amazing over there. It's nice to kind of see their races and their sailing systems going, kind of encourage youth. A lot of people say, oh, do you do the sailboats? We're able to direct them up towards the oldest inland yacht club in America, which is a fun fact. We also, with the help of the National Grid Foundation, we have a STEM research. So we're able to do a lot of science programs, water testing. We're meeting, trying to put that together formally for this year. We've kind of dabbled in the past couple of years, started that. And we're looking to retain our kayak classes, maybe even expand them. I already mentioned the water testing and working with the economic development director just to create those establishments, hosting kid-friendly events at the Common, just being a part of that and making sure it's a family fun area and event there. And then next slide, please. Oh.
I'll jump in here, Anthony.
John,
If you no, go ahead. If your volume works, go for it.
All right, can everybody hear me?
Yes, Anthony.
So Amanda didn't know I was going to do this, and she's probably going to hurt me tomorrow or sometime this week. But she deserves a lot of credit from everything. From that map you saw, she makes sure that every single person who comes kayaking gets a map of downtown Wakefield. Customer service, but to also this, and I thought this was important enough to share. We randomly received this letter from a grandfather in North Reading who brought his own canoe when canoeing in Lake Quannapowitt with his family. No connection to boating on the lake or Wakefield, and sent this letter, and I'm just going to read it real briefly, that on Monday, June 20th, 2022, I was canoeing on Lake Quannapowitt with my daughter and 5-year-old grandson. Unfortunately, we capsized, and all of us ended up in the water with our canoe full of water. Quickly, 2 kayaks came by to offer assistance, which was helpful, but most importantly, very quickly, a rescue boat came to offer help. We learned it was driven by Amanda from the Boys and Girls Club Boat Rental Organization. I want to let you know what a wonderful job she did coming to our aid in a very dangerous situation. She arrived in an extremely short time and took control of the situation. She calmly talked and reassured my grandson that all was fine. while at the same time she proceeded to start bailing out the canoe. Then she towed us to our launch site and helped us get the canoe out of the water. Amanda was truly a lifesaver. Without her, the situation could have turned out badly. I want to be sure you realize what a wonderful person she is, what a great reflection of who she was. Please take a minute to thank her. Amanda hates being thanked in public, so we thought we would sneak this into a PowerPoint. It's also Jerry why we sent you the last minute. And Amanda, thank you for
Thanks, Anthony. And we're open to questions. I mean, we're going into our third season running the community boating, and honestly, it's one of our favorite programs. You know, to be able to offer this to families in Wakefield and outside of Wakefield. Of course, in Wakefield, you're still getting that 25% discount. And if you want to rent a single kayak and you're a Wakefield resident, it's only cost you $9 for an hour. We haven't raised the prices. We don't intend to. To be able to give all families access to the lake is really the whole game for us. So it's been wonderful. I will say thank you to Steve, who included us in the Boston 25 zip trip. We actually used that for our first jobs program. We didn't tell the teenagers they were going to be on TV, so they really got a nice shock out of that, which was great for us. So, but past that, we're open to questions. But you know, we thank the council for considering us for a third year, and we're happy to be able to operate again.
Thank you for that presentation. That was great. Any comments or questions? I will say that it is much appreciated, all the young people in town who work with you. I feel like I have a lot of friends whose kids and a lot of young people who worked and love it. And I can't tell you how many young kids came up to me and did the reading challenge with the library, and were then really excited, and parents not so excited that the parents then had to take them out on a kayak. But it was really, I thought the collaboration you have done is great. Some were excited, some not as excited, but it was a great incentive to get kids to read and to, you know, promote their reading. Steve, anything changed in the contract?
No, this has been a great collaboration. We've had nothing but praise from everybody that has utilized it, and I see families, old people, young people, there all the time. And if my balance were better, I'd be on a paddleboard, but that's a challenge of mine for next year, or for this summer, so.
We'll hold you to that.
No, I'm gonna go for the paddleboard, but what the heck.
Do I have a motion, Jonathan?
Yes, Madam Chair. Happily move to approve the revocable permit agreement with the Boys and Girls Club of Stoneham, Inc. as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye, 7-0. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 10, 4th of July. Steve? No?
Yeah, sure. Jonathan, if you want, just make the motion.
Just
It's good by
make-
me.
yeah.
Just to make the motion, move to approve a request from the West Side Social Club to use the upper and lower commons beginning at 6 a.m. on Monday, July 3rd, 2023 to Wednesday, July 5th, 2023, ending at 6 a.m. and to use the outside of Veterans Field on Tuesday, July 4th, 2023 for food concessions.
Second.
Any further discussion? I think we all know what this is for.
I'll just say, like, I'm a member of this, but I've checked with Tom Mullen in the past. I know I've voted on it, but I just wanted to make that disclosure. So I'm a member of the West Side.
Oh,
so,
okay.
So just so we're clear, but he said I need not abstain.
These are wonderful events in the early morning, starting with the fishing derby to
the parade,
the doll carriage parade to the bike parade, and it is amazing
pet
how
parade.
Pet,
yeah.
I don't think is there hat one.
A pet
Pet, oh,
parade?
pet. I thought you said hat. I said pet. It is amazing the creativity of these young kids that go.
It's amazing.
And it's a
So
you feel
fun.
good in the morning when you go there.
Mhm.
So I suggest it. And culminating with the fireworks at night. It's I'm very happy when I hear the last car leave Wakefield.
Yeah.
But it's a fun day.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye, 7-0. Thank you. Item number 11, 460 Main
Yes,
Street.
460 Main Street, a couple, the chair calls me every day, at least once a day, sometimes twice a day on 460 Main Street, making sure.
Slight
Slight,
exaggeration.
no.
I gave you the week off for
Gave me
vacation.
the week off, yeah. So in any event, we talked, I just want to get some feelings back from the council on this. We talked about making that a little bit more presentable during the construction period, although the petitioner, who's in front of the Board of Appeals right now, is really going really quickly on this and wants to start work here as quickly as possible. I've told their attorney that they can start work on July 5th, not on July 4th. So get all your ducks in a row. So this is one concept that they had about kind of showing what this could be. If that's not what the council is thinking, I will go back to their attorney tomorrow morning. Just wanted to share that. So they are working with sign company and trying to get this ready to roll. So it looks a little bit better. I like on the first one, you know, want something in there, making it better, brighter downtown, or moving Wakefield forward, coming soon, something like that would be up there as well. So that's what they presented to me, so I'm sharing that with you today.
So, sorry, can I, so are these like painted signs?
I think they're
Are
sign,
they,
they're signage.
Like kind of, screenage?
Yes,
like
screenage
printed
signs, probably
things?
they'll
Like,
go
okay.
up for a while, yeah. And if you envision something else, let me know, I'll go back to them.
I
I'll
imagine it's just
provide
like
them.
those, like almost like those big stickers in essence, like they just stick onto windows that you see often, right? Something along those lines.
Yeah, I think that's what they are,
In
kind of to dress
essence.
it up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you see a lot of like in like Boston, for instance,
Yeah.
you see a lot of
Yeah.
office, like
You see
vacant
the
office
malls
space.
too, and you see it at
Right.
Market Street, same sort of thing. So a little bit better, it's not, certainly they can't do everything, but I think they are trying to make it look a little bit more brighter and festive, and I think it's gonna be short-lived. I think they're gonna be, as soon as these go up, they wanna get moving on this. So, just wanted to share that, so they are moving forward as they promised.
I mean, I'll just say, if I may, Madam
Yeah,
Chair, I mean,
Councilor
just, in the interest of having actual things in
Yeah.
the building sooner rather than later, I mean, from my perspective, if they're, it's great to have this up for, say, July 4th,
Oh,
if the
no,
building
for a
is
while,
still
yeah,
vacant.
yeah.
But,
Well, it is
if for
vacant.
whatever reason they're ready to start doing construction before them, I wouldn't want to hold up construction. I would actually rather see an
Yeah.
active work site,
My,
to be
my
honest with you.
only concern with that is that sidewalk, there'd be some there might be some, if I can be assured there won't be any.
Yeah,
you
I mean,
know,
I think we'd have to make sure
Right.
that it's appropriately
Exactly.
cordoned
Yeah.
off and safe
Right.
for July 4th. But again, I mean, I don't have any love loss for the building as it
Okay.
currently stands. So, if there's movement that they're able to make
Yeah.
quickly, I wouldn't want to forestall that.
Okay. All right.
Councillor Dennehy.
So since this has been such a long history, I'll say, and I really appreciate you as chair keeping on top of this with asking questions. And I think that, do we have a schedule of how often we're getting updates? And if not, should we put something in place so that we're making sure that we're getting updates more than we would on other projects?
Well, they are in front of the Board of Appeals right now. They've already
Yeah.
filed, as they mentioned. I can certainly, I think they had one hearing in front of the Board of Appeals, and that was very well-received, let's put it that way. I can certainly give you updates at every meeting, and I could say they met and they continued it, whatever you want, it's fine by me.
Yeah, I just think just keeping informed.
Keep the pressure on.
And, yeah, keeping the pressure on.
Councillor Dombrowski.
If I could just add too, I don't know to what extent we have jurisdiction over this, but I just think the caliber of the finishes too is important. And if you look at the other construction that we have around town, I think, North Ave being one example, I think the quality of materials does make a difference.
Absolutely.
And in this, the presentation, it was a little bit unclear. I think Councilor Dennehy had asked a question about a brick facade, for instance,
Right.
and things like that. I'd really like to just stress to these folks who are obviously in the business of development that a higher quality finishes would be really well received by this town, to the extent we can encourage that.
Yep, I will do that. I'm sure they're watching.
Thank you for that update, Steve. Item number 12, donations.
Madam Chair, move to accept and expend a gift or gifts to the Council on Aging in the amount of $265 from various donors with thanks.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0, great, thank you.
And move to accept and expend a gift or gifts to the Veteran Services consisting of tangible items valued at approximately $8,000 from various donors with thanks.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0, thank you. Item number 13, warrants. Counselor Vincent?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is the earliest I've ever been able to talk about warrants. The first warrant is warrant 36, 2.19 million and change. Treasurer, school, public works, light department, the vast majority of that for reasons that we've always seen. I think it's always good to talk about the town council budget. We have $100,000 in there, 90,000 of which was for WCAT. Warrant number 38, 7.651 million and change. Most of that treasurer, school, public works, and unemployment group insurance, and the light department. Warrant number 39, 1.182 million. Actually, most of that was town council. That was $653,000 of it, and that was for public safety building vendors. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to item 14, approval of minutes.
Move to approve the minutes of the April 10, 2023 Town Council meeting.
Second?
All in favor? Aye, 7-0, thank you.
And move to approve the minutes of the April 10, 2023 Town Council Executive Session meeting.
Second?
All in favor? Aye, thank you. Item number 15, announcements. Counselor Dennehy.
I'd like to remind everybody that tomorrow is Election Day and to encourage everybody to, if you have not already voted, to please go out and vote, even if it's raining. And I want to wish best of luck to my two colleagues, Maureen Butt and Ed Dombrowski, and I hope to be seated at the table with both of you at our next meeting. So best of luck to both of you. I know campaigning's not always easy.
Thank you.
So best of luck.
Thank you. Counselor Chines.
Thank you. A couple of items. Wanted to mention during the ESC update, there was discussion about the open space plan. The Conservation Commission's actually holding a public forum on the open space and recreation plan this coming Thursday, April 27th. That's at 7 o'clock on Zoom. There are also, if folks can attend that, there is a public survey that's out that I've taken the chance to fill out. It's probably a 15-minute survey, but really good opportunity to share feedback around some of the spaces that are available. And I will say, quite frankly, a good opportunity to learn about some of the public spaces that we have. There were a couple on there that I had to look up that I wasn't as familiar with, so please participate in that. And also coming up this Saturday is Blossoms at the BB. I know we've talked about and celebrated some of the great things that our library does. Obviously, the 100th anniversary was just a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago, Saturday on the 15th. Another great opportunity to support the library is to attend Blossoms. It's a great time. I'm so glad that it's back in person, and look forward to seeing folks there.
Thank you. Counselor Smith-Galvin.
Just quickly to reiterate what we heard earlier, on May 3rd at the library, there is a session by a Tufts professor who lives here in town on climate change and agriculture. I think it's going to be very interesting, and they do ask for pre-sign-ups for that. And then on May 20th is Warrior Cleanup Day, which is not affiliated with the environmental sustainability group, but definitely kind of a kindred event. And I think you just go to Warrior Cleanup and sign up for that. Is it starting at Woodville or Dolbear? I can't remember. Starting at one of the elementary schools, where I'm going to pick up lots of corners.
You're going to find them.
See who can get more corners. Snack bags.
That might be a fun competition to take over from dodgeball. Thank you, Julie. Counselor Vincent?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wednesday night, I will be at the Wakefield High School lacrosse game for their salute to service. The pregame ceremony starts at 6. The game starts at 6:30. They're inviting all veterans, well, anybody from the community, but they're specifically asking all veterans, active duty personnel, and Gold Star families to attend so they can be honored before the beginning of the match. And they're also asking for folks to bring donations that will be shipped to active duty personnel around the world. They're looking for toothbrushes, toothpaste, mouthwash, shampoo, things of that nature. So I encourage everyone to, I know it's going to be a little chilly, I think 42 that night, but to come to watch the lacrosse team take on Wilmington. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else? Counselor Dombrowski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As Councilor Dennehy mentioned, the election is tomorrow, and there are 3 candidates for 2 slots on this council. So I just want to say that we don't know how the election will turn out, but in the event this ends up being my last meeting on the council, I do just want to thank everyone for your support of the last 6 years. I hope to be able to serve another term. I hope I've earned your trust, but I do just want to make sure I acknowledge the tremendous opportunity I've already had thus far, and I thank the community for allowing me to do it. Thank you.
Just one other update that wasn't said. Jonathan mentioned it last week. Our library celebrated their 100th birthday. A few of us went. It was a beautiful day, hundreds of people going through. And I didn't realize that this week is the start of National Library Week. So if you get a chance, go visit our 100-year-old library. And if you can attend gala this weekend, I've heard there's some great silent auction prizes to be had. So just a reminder about the great stuff we have in town. Steve or Sherry, any other announcements?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, and then moving on to matters not anticipated for agenda. Steve.
I actually have one. I'm sorry about this. Because it does
Don't
need to
apologize.
does need to be voted on. So as the members of the council know, we did apply for a grant through the Mass Historical Commission for $100,000 for the the Civil War Monument. And I was very confident we were going to get that grant, and I'm even more confident now because the Mass Historical Commission requested some additional information from the town of Wakefield, and it has to be in by April 28th. So that's the urgency here. We're not going to have another meeting beforehand. And one of which is that the council voted to allow the town administrator, myself, to sign the contract with the Mass Historical Commission. So I'd ask you to include that in the motion. And if second, that I will sign a letter to them that if we are granted or awarded the grant, that it is our intention to record a permanent restriction and maintenance agreement for the statue pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 184, Section 31 through 33, which means that we will maintain that statue, which I think we would, and that there is no mortgage on the property. I can guarantee that there's no mortgage on the property, and if there is a discharge in Attorney McLean's drawer that he has to still file at the Registry of Deeds. No, there is no mortgage on the property. I take this as a good sign that they want this right away, particularly that they want me to be able to sign it. So this needs to be into them by April 28th. I hate asking for items like this that haven't gone out to the council ahead of time. I was made aware of this at around 5 o'clock this afternoon. Wow. I did contact Attorney Mullen, got him as he was going into the Linfield town meeting, and he certainly assured me and emailed me that there's no problem in this, and it kind of is exactly what he told them in a letter, but they wanted it to come from me and a vote from the board. So if that could be done, we'll get that out to them by the 28th.
So moved.
Second.
I'm not going to try to repeat the.
No. We have a motion and it was seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Thank you.
7-0
Thank you
unanimous.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Very exciting.
That's a good way to end with good news.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any other matters not anticipated? Councilor McLean.
Just briefly, Madam Chair, if I may, for those councilors that are not aware of this, I have requested that at our next formal meeting that we discuss the Finance Committee's, in my opinion, rather unusual resolution regarding our use of one particular item, I believe it is, of ARPA funds, that being the $100,000 committed, because it is apparently something that they're indicating they may put in to some written material at town meeting, which I think is also very unusual, and also that there may be a motion from the floor. So I would welcome anyone who hasn't watched the most recent meetings where these materials were discussed to please do so before our next meeting, because I would like us to discuss it in open meeting and, you know, how we're going to approach this for those of us at town meeting with, hopefully with one voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And it was on my list to talk to Steve, but it's good that you mentioned it. So Vice Chair Jonathan is aware for the next meeting to add it to the agenda. Okay, anything else? Then do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Great. All in favor, say aye. Thank you. Our next regular town council meeting will be Monday, May 8th, starting at 7 p.m. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Before you all run off, I do have the IMA to be signed. It's not, you've already agreed to it.
What is this?
This is the IMA with Linfield on the wall.
Oh, yeah.
Don't tell Sherry.
IMA, I was like,
Yeah.
sorry, no, I will.
Have you seen the meeting?